Good evening, everyone. Musty Hobbit here to kick off what is sure to be an action-packed recap of Day 2 of E3 for the Cartridge Club. With us again, we have our esteemed panel of video game experts ready to dish our rapid reactions to what we saw in the Bethesda, Ubisoft, PC Gaming Showcase, and Sony press conferences. So I'd like to welcome back Ryan, ItsRocketSauce, Caleb J. Ross, and P1. Guys, thanks for joining us on the second consecutive night.
We did it, guys.
Yay. We're here. So let's jump right in. I mean, there's a lot to unpackage from today. I think we want to start with Sony. That's what everybody just got done seeing here. Now, for those watching, I do want to reiterate that your best source for all of the trailers that we're going through and conversation on E3 is best found in the forums over at cartridgeclub.org. And a big thank you to Dean. This is my hashtag thanks, Dean, for maintaining that for us and keeping that full of information for people to digest in their own time. But we again are going to talk about these things. And I think today we'll go under the impression that you have watched them. We won't go into huge major detail on everything that we saw, but if there's things of importance or things that you liked, we will go into those things as well. We'll be monitoring chat as best we can. These guys to help me with that part. But please, to those watching, if we aren't hitting a game that you want to hear about and you want to have us talk about it, please say so in the chat. We will try to get to everything we can. It was being as Bethesda flowed into tonight's coverage, it did equate to a lot of stuff for us to go through. So I should probably just get into it and stop talking about it right now. So our big story, we want to kick things off talking about Sony, right? We just got through with that hour-long presentation, right? The 57 minutes. 57 minutes. Okay. I want to get some rapid opinions on the presentation itself, and I want to start with Ryan. I want to start with you. I want to get your take on the Sony presentation. Just the presentation. Don't go into games yet, but how did it make you feel?
I was happy with what I saw. Little disappointed, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But I was happy with what I saw today. So,
P1, do you want to? What about you? General thoughts on the presentation itself?
Underwhelming. That's my hot take.
Well, I actually really enjoyed it until I realized what a hot take it must have been, that whole show. Everyone is crapping on it. But I was like, wow, this is a great rallying moment for the video game community. What a great presentation. This is phenomenal. And then immediately, like, Twitter, everyone is just shitting on it. So I either missed something or I'm just so blinded by the power of Sony that I kind of embraced it more than other people do. I also haven't really been paying attention to a lot of new games purposefully to keep myself from being spoiled, I guess. So anyway, that's where I am. I'm still riding a high though, guys. You're gonna have to really slather it on for me to jump off a cliff at this point.
Yeah, I don't want to give the perception that we're dissatisfied with what we saw. There is a lot there. There was a lot that we have to talk about. It's just I feel like a very high bar was set from the other presentations, even the ones today. I feel like a high bar was set, and I feel like Sony didn't deliver. They delivered what we knew about. We'll talk about this, I guess. I didn't see things releasing this year that aren't VR games.
Right.
Did I miss? I mean, am I missing something with that? I just,
well, there were quite,
it feels like,
yeah, there were quite a few that weren't VR, but there were more than you would expect that are VR. I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 VR games that were pushed right in the middle of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 non-6 VR games. That's a pretty crazy ratio in terms of VR games. And I'm not happy about that because I made my point on the last Hangout that I just don't care about VR. So I hate that there's so much focus on it. But you know, I'm a sample set of one, so.
Well, you might not be the only in that court. Yeah, P1. I want to get your thoughts. Did the VR offering that they were showing did that sell you on PSVR? You have a Pro already, so you're already in a spot where that would be better for you. But what's your thought?
No. No. I don't like first-person games. I assume first-person games are the best games for VR. I don't know why you need VR to play a side-scrolling Metroidvania style game.
That was weird.
I do not want a television strapped to my face. That was the low point of the conference for me. It dipped there. Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I kept wishing that it would be more like the Microsoft conference.
See, I will say this about it. I will say, so the Star Child side-scrolling VR thing is definitely weird. I assume that's where you're going with that. I still don't quite get that. But at least with the VR stuff that they're providing, most of them are anchored in games that people are already familiar with, which I take as kind of a good thing. It's a way to maybe get people excited about it rather than trying to do entirely new IPs, which traditionally would be the best way to sort of roll out new things. But there's a lot of stuff there that is just, again, anchored in games that people are already familiar with. I had no idea Skyrim VR was a thing. Again, I stayed out of the news, but that seems like that would excite a lot of Skyrim fans, I'm assuming. The Final Fantasy 15 VR thing as well. So I think it's there, but again, not for me.
So one of those two games in particular I wanted to bring up, because when I saw that, the thing that stuck out to me was something that came out a few years ago on Kinect, Fable the Journey, and it, you would cast spells with your hands. Like I didn't see, there was a layer of, on top of that, there was a layer of polish that some of those VR games just looked, they didn't look like they were demo ready.
Mm-hmm.
There was just something about it that still looked, it kind of pulled me out of what I was watching a little bit. But that was just, I feel like Skyrim's going to get run into the ground at some point here. Probably in the next
6
year.
years strong. Can't wait for Skyrim Ultra Switch Remastered HDR 4K next year.
Deluxe. Don't forget the Deluxe.
If it comes with a figurine, I'm on board. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, so the Final Fantasy VR game, is that exclusively fishing? Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened? So what happened to the VR experience with Prompto and because last year they showed it and he had the VR headset on in combat, and it's not here now.
Fishing is pretty great. So that's that.
One of the best things to do while you're fishing is to sit back with a nice cold beer. So I'm just wondering what it is, Caleb, that you're drinking tonight.
Oh, look at that. We didn't have intros today, so I couldn't. This is Hoptronics from New Holland Brewing Company. And a subtle plug for myself, I plan on doing a video about video game themed beers, and I actually reached out to this brewery to just get some information on what the impetus behind the label, what inspired them to put video games on a label, which is obviously a space, like a Galaxia clone or Space Invaders type clone on the label. And he said that they're actually working on a video game that is a bottle shooting aliens and stuff, which I think is kind of funny. Probably, I'm sure, like a Flash game or something. And they also, for anyone who's familiar with this brewery, they also have a really good beer called Dragon Milk Stout, and they were going to make a double version of that and call it Double Dragon. And the one guy who was really in favor and really wanted to do it, got shot down by the marketing people. And it was cool because the guy who responded, this is going way longer than it needed to, but I'm really excited about it. The guy who responded to me via email when I asked about the label, he actually said, I'm not the one that answers these kinds of questions. I just happened to see this come through the email inbox, and I wanted to reach out because I love games and I think games are awesome. And so here's all the stuff that I want to do with this brewery, but no one will let me. And he's talking about all these video game things. And then he put his, typical gamer fashion, put his PSN gamer tag in the signature. And now we're friends on Facebook or on Facebook on PSN, and he said if I'm ever in the New Holland area, which is a Michigan-based brewery, so Ryan, maybe you know about him. He said he'd give me a personal tour of the brewery, so that's very cool. So video games are great.
Very cool.
That is very cool.
Already a better presentation than the Sony conference.
I didn't have flames though shooting off of the stage.
I do want to say they did show a bunch of games that I did like. It's just I was every year I see a Sony show and I leave it breathless, like a prom date. And
you guys spoke very highly of the orchestra press conference.
Yeah,
and this one started off with music. Now for the music we could hear just fine. Did anyone else? I just want to make sure this wasn't unique to me, but I was watching the IGN stream on YouTube, and there was no audio right out the gate, and then they went to the mics in what seemed to be in the auditorium, and then cranked those things up as high as they could, and then finally figured it out during the Days Gone gameplay. Yeah. Okay. So Dean confirmed IGN had audio issues. So
I think it was the actual.
It was all of them. Yeah, it was all a couple of them. I was on the official Twitch at E3 one, and the audio was down, and then I switched to the Sony one, and the audio was worse. So then I switched back to the E3, and eventually, like you said, by the Days Gone trailer, it was fixed. But it's in the third game. It took me out of it a little bit. It didn't ruin the show for me. That's not what it is. But I think for me, I'm going to echo P1 a little bit, just that maybe just because the years past, I think they've just really just absolutely killed it. And then this year is just kind of like, I felt maybe they saved some back. I know they have their own show, which I believe is in August, called the PlayStation Experience. So I almost wonder if they held some back for that reason alone. Plus, like, there's games I wanted to see that I didn't see. Granted, I don't even know if they're in development. It's just all rumors. So, getting my hopes up and then not showing there, it was a little heartbreaking. I wish they would have went another half hour, because granted, what I've seen tonight, I really liked, but I wanted more, and I guess, just an hour wasn't enough for me today. I know it sounds awful. Just, I wanted a little bit more.
No, I agree 100%, Ryan. Ni no Kuni 2, Final Fantasy 7, Shenmue, Last of Us, Gran Turismo. We didn't see any of these games. We saw some of them in the pre-show. We saw trailers in the pre-show for them. Your press conference was only an hour long.
They could attack those 100%. on and given us a couple 100%. More minutes and at least given those. I mean, the people who aren't watching IGN's pre-show don't get that trailer until after the fact. Interesting. But yeah, so they led off. Well, I guess we can just kind of run through chronologically, unless you guys want to hop around a bit. We kind of touched on the VR stuff. Was there any other comments on VR that you guys wanted to make at this point? I know we've got Julian watching. He is the lone person that I know that has a PlayStation VR. But Ryan, you had some additional VR thoughts.
Well, I want to say what's it called that. I am happy that they're sticking with it, because it seems like they really have not given up on it like they did the Vita as quick. It's selling well, because I heard it just broke like 1 million units, and I think that exceeded their expectations with VR.
Are they going to fix them?
I was thinking of something too. I was trying.
Kidding.
I just want to say from the 2 games I've played in VR, I am interested in PlayStation VR. But I only seen like 1 game that I think today, maybe 2. The Impatient, which looked like another horror game, and Bravo Team. I could see with the light gun rail or the new thing that they came out with, the new peripheral for that Far Sight game. I think it's called Farpoint. Yeah, I could see if it's gonna be an on-rail shooter. I love on-rail shooters. Especially if it's gonna be like a light gun game. And in VR, it interests me. It's nothing I'm going to run out the door to buy a VR for, but I'm glad they're committed to it. I just want to see one thing what sells something like this, and why I think the VR is sold so well, is you need the killer app for it. And I think Resident Evil 7 was one of those. I think you need to follow up with another one of those. I didn't see another killer app for it today. I just saw a couple games that I would buy on the sale. So
I think once we get to the Bethesda area, there's a couple there that I think will sell it for a few people. But we can talk about that when we get to Bethesda as well. The one thing I'll say before we go into the game by game, there's some chatter in the comments about not being able to put as many games into the PlayStation conference as, say, Microsoft did. And one of the things that I really liked about what PlayStation did was they had a lot of gameplay footage, which is something I saw absent from a lot of other ones. Even though the gameplay footage in and of itself is kind of long and in some cases a little bit boring, as a gamer, I kind of want to know what the game is going to look like, what it's going to feel like when I'm actually playing. I just don't want cinematic trailers all over the place, which was kind of a knock on, I believe. I think the PC section, if I remember correctly, was a little bit too heavy on just theatrical trailer type things and not actual gameplay, except for the many card games and stuff that were on there. But I really appreciated that about it. I don't know if I'm the only one that's like that, but I really did appreciate it. So even those long, drawn out gameplay sequences that really happened for all of the non-VR games, I just really appreciate it, and I appreciate that. So.
Yeah, I'll take in-game footage, like gameplay, over cinematic trailers every day of the week, without a doubt. Like, I mean, we'll talk about it in Ubisoft, but there's one major cinematic trailer in that was very exciting, but had it been gameplay, then it would have been, I don't know, maybe a little different.
Yeah, I think it was Ubisoft, not PC Gamers, so just so I can correct myself on that. Yeah, I think it was the Ubisoft one. That was.
But all of the gameplay that they showed for the Sony conference, every one of the games they did show was fantastic. Yeah.
So right out the gate, they hit with the stuff that we knew about, right? There's the new Uncharted that has a release date. Did I catch a release date?
I think last I checked was August. I didn't see a date though.
It's soon. I don't know if they put an exact one, but it was I thought they may have said something. I think we were still talking about the audio at that point, so I may have been distracted.
I think we, as the Cartridge Club, need to do the video game community a favor and actually dub our own lines into those trailers that didn't have any audio. So that's on someone's desk, someone's shoulders here to, I think, do that and do it justice. I'll just let you run with it.
No, there was audio. It just sounded like someone put a couple strips over the microphones or something like that. You could barely hear.
You were sitting on it?
You're sitting on the microphone.
When you kink the microphone hose, it prevents all the audio from actually going through, and then you gotta like let it open, and it comes out really fast. That's how audio works.
Yeah.
It's not how audio works.
So, interest in Uncharted? Let me preface, many of you who are viewing know I don't have a PlayStation 3. I don't have a PlayStation 4, so there are some of these games I'm not going to be able to speak to from a historical standpoint. So I myself have not played those. So for those who have played Uncharted, what'd you say?
I said Musty hates Sony.
I don't hate Sony. Stop that. Don't do that.
Without Sony records, we would have
TLC.
Right. Thank you very much.
There's a bunch of Sony right there. It's all Final Fantasy, but there's a bunch of Sony right there.
The Uncharted trailer was so I've played Uncharted 1, and I thought it was okay. I'm not a massive fan, but I do recognize that this is a franchise that is huge, and the trailer for Uncharted 4 looked really good. And what I like the most is that we still haven't seen Nathan Drake, which is great, because I don't think he should be in it. But it looked good. Will I pick it up? I don't know. Probably not. Like I said, I've only played the first one. But I think for Uncharted fans, this looks like more of the same with new faces. So less samey, more of the different.
Yeah. Likewise, I've only played the first one. I played about half of it, and then just sort of lost interest. So not for me, but I'm happy for the fans to get this game.
Yeah. So then the next thing that they showed,
I would like to speak about Uncharted.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I thought it looked fantastic, but it involves one of my favorite characters from the series, Chloe, and she's in Uncharted 2. And she was missing, I think, Uncharted 4, I think, wraps up the series very well. And she was missing from the series, spoiler, from the end, basically. I'm glad she's getting her own game. I think she's one of the more interesting characters in Uncharted. And I'm interested in probably purchasing it right away just because I'm a fan of the series. I will agree with you guys. I wasn't a big fan of the first Uncharted, but 2 is when it really kind of got me into the series, and from then forward, become a fan of the series.
Thank you. Sorry, I won't skip you again. Just thought I had a good segue into Horizon, so this is now my segue into Horizon. People are fans of Horizon, so why not give them more? So they announced DLC for Horizon Zero Dawn. Who's played Horizon?
I haven't. I really want to. It's a game I would definitely enjoy. It's on my very shallow backlog, the shallowest part of my backlog list, so it will be there. I'm just generally against announcing DLC at these kind of things, so that's my only takeaway.
Yeah, right. I mean, and again, it's right out the gate. We had that with EA. EA led off with Battlefield 1 DLC, and I think it's good in this case for your big new franchise. Sold well. It's obvious that it will eventually get a sequel. I'm glad they didn't go and just tease a sequel right now. That would have been a huge mistake. But to show that they're dedicated to further iterations is a good sign. P1, thoughts on Horizon?
Look good. I'm glad the layout of what they did for the show was, here's two things that you like. You knew Uncharted, you've seen it a bunch, and you knew Horizon was getting DLC. We're going to put those first and move on from them to things that you might not be aware of or things that you might be more excited for. They took them, they put them up front, they showed them first, which is what they should have done, and it looked good. It's a game I haven't yet played, but I desperately want to. I'm just trying to space out it from Breath of the Wild because I don't want to compare it unfairly.
Yeah. Definitely. And Ryan, thoughts?
It makes me not want to purchase Horizon Zero Dawn now. I want to wait for a complete edition, which comes with the DLC, so that I will wait longer now to play this game. So that's all they confirmed for me with this game. I mean, it looks amazing. Just I will wait now that there's DLC.
You just know now. You know now there will be there could still be a true Game of the Year edition as well.
Yeah. Naughty Dog usually does that, where they will give you an edition with all the DLC story arc. They've done it for Uncharted. They've done it for Last of Us. So I imagine this will happen. Well, this is not Naughty Dog. This is Guerrilla Studios. But I imagine with a Sony title, they probably will do this.
A guy wearing a PlayStation shirt should know that.
What are you talking about?
Well, Sony likes money, and I'm sure Guerrilla Games likes money. And if they want to fund the next game in the series, then anything they can do to boost that as well will be a good move, I think. So I agree with you there. So then we shifted into Days Gone, and this was the first to me really substantial gameplay demo. For the first two were, I know that Uncharted is kind of seamless with their cinematics going into gameplay, but this one was truly like, I don't know how long it was, maybe 6 or 7 minutes, and so we see our protagonist, who is played by the guy from Force Unleashed, right? That's what FitNat. That's what FitNat was telling us.
Confirmed.
FitNat is right. Hashtag.
Yeah, FitNat's always right. This looked fun. I don't know. I have issues with. It looked fun, and it looks like a game that I would enjoy. It'll be when the price drops, pick it up for me, because much like The Last of Us, a lot of games I find that emphasize hey, you can stealth and be sneaky, don't really mean that, and everything ends up being a shootout in the middle of the street. That guy was really good at sneaking bush to bush and throwing bear traps and rocks and planting some C4 on a wall and getting a swarm of zombies to attack them. I will most likely be really good at stumbling into a group of enemies and having to pull out a shotgun and panic.
Yeah.
But it looked great. Like I will buy it. It'll be, assuming reviews are good. It looked like a lot of fun. If you are skilled enough to play it in that manner, I think you would really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I won't be.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm always the tanky guy that's just going to, if I can find enough ammo, I'll get through the game, and that's kind of how I play most of those games. I'm not a big fan of stealth games. Never really have been a huge fan of stealth games, so I generally don't play them that way. But what I liked about this trailer is it highlighted the idea of using the hordes for your own benefit, and depending on how often that can be done and how creatively that can be done, as long as it's not the same sort of use case every single time you blow up a wall with C4 and the hordes come. If there's a way to use those kind of to your own advantage in a different way, that could be really cool. That could be really interesting. And I'm hoping that the game itself will train the player on where to recognize when the environment can be used to your benefit. And that's a big drawback to a lot of these kind of games, I think, is that you have to be a stealth game player in order to play a stealth game, whereas I want to be trained on sort of what to look for. Like the bear trap example at the beginning, there's no way I would have thought to use a bear trap there. I never would have thought it in a million years unless the game had previously sort of, I don't know if it's a straight up tutorial, but trained me a little bit on how to recognize those types of situations. And then I could feel really smart when I do it myself, So if that exists, I would be more than happy to jump into it, sort of, not necessarily day one, maybe day 3, 4, possibly 5, 6.
I hope there's some flavor of variety to attacking each. Like I hope those big set pieces aren't just like, here's the button.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that there's 18 buttons, or maybe just 5 buttons. But there's I want some variety to how to approach that, and obviously for the purpose of a demonstration, you got to show the big flashy one and show all of those shambling, and they weren't exactly shambling. Those are very, very
fast,
kind of terrifying monsters, sprinting all over the place.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Musty. I would love it if it was here's the button, do the button. 3 games that I simply adored from this generation were Until Dawn, The Order 1886, and Rise, Son of Rome. And those were very much, you do this 1 or 2 button, and we're going to make it pretty, and you're going to enjoy it, and it's a tightly woven story. If Days Gone is like that, and I feel like this, like if I can go through the game and feel like a badass, even though I know I'm just hitting X when it tells me to hit X, I'm okay with that, I'm okay with that. My wife lies to me and tells me that I'm great at things. I know I'm not, but I'm okay with it.
You're really good at cleaning the bathroom too, honey. You should do that. You're so good at
it. She's pushing your buttons, man. And I think you bring up a very good point, and there's a game that we'll talk about later that I feel it probably falls right into that category as well.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, definitely. So good. So in general, we're pretty happy with what we saw, because last year Days Gone was just a cinematic trailer. What was the deal with the like, of all of the presentations, why hang people from the ceiling from this one? Is this a Tool concert? What's happening here?
That was the audio team. They those are the guys responsible for the audio at the start of the show. Yeah.
I will say, I think what that is, it was definitely jarring from a home audience perspective. But what I will say is, because Sony's one of the few developers that's actually at the E3 convention, and sort of they can sort of control the stage, and they can control what you're looking at. They can control the viewpoint. I think they wanted to use that to their benefit, whereas with these other presenters, they don't necessarily have the same flexibility, I wouldn't think, to control everything about the stage. And so I think they were probably just trying to do that. I think why it looks so weird to us is because whoever was the director for the live stream was terrible at it, because it would be a weird cut where you'd see a few people hanging and then it would cut right back to the screen. And there's got to be a more elegant way of presenting that for the home viewer. I just don't. The home viewer was an afterthought, to be quite frank, in that whole situation. It was definitely very weird and jarring. Of all the things to immerse the viewer, let's throw some dead bodies up in the rafters. I don't know.
Because the part that they were they were going through was one of those. I don't know if you played the Tomb Raider reboot. There's those sort of controlled sequences where you're going from one environment to another environment, and cinematically those are beautiful sequences that mask load screens basically. But they decided to kind of distract us with this instead of letting us see you crawling through this, not pile, but this like mass of hanging bodies. Like that's impactful. There's other games from other shows that have that kind of sort of visceral effect, and they kind of took attention away from that. Yeah. So just an interesting observation on.
And the one audience member who wasn't quite distracted by bodies hanging is probably an audience member that you don't really want to be in your audience anyway. That guy's got some things going on in his head that they should probably get him.
Was it the one who started bowing?
There was
right after that.
It was a little weird. I respect everyone's religion, if that's what that is. But it was a little strange to sort of highlight things. Although that was one of the things I thought hilarious about the Devolver one, which again, if we have time, we'll get into the Devolver Digital one. But I thought they had some really funny audience cutaways. But anyway, let's proceed with Sony.
Ryan, I don't think we got your thoughts on Days Gone. Is this a day one for you, or is this a days later?
I need to see a little bit more. But I'll tell you this, from seeing it from the year before, it's got my interest more into it now. Like when I saw this last year was a game I would have passed on, and I was not impressed by what I saw last year. It just seemed like a horror game. This one actually seems like there's a little bit more to it. Granted, they had a year to work on it more, but still, it looked way more interesting to me this year. And it had QuickTime events, which I love. I love QuickTime events, which several games tonight showed they have QuickTime events, and so that makes me happy. So
even Dying Light. Did you ever play Dying Light?
No, not yet.
Oh, well, there's a phenomenal QuickTime event in that I won't spoil it for you, but it's the bane of many players' existence. So,
excellent.
Anyway.
Okay, excellent. So then they brought out Sean Layton. I don't really know what his role was. They didn't exactly show what his title was. He's just the guy who usually comes out.
Title.
Yeah,
he's the guy.
He's the Lincoln. What was the guy from Nintendo? Lincoln Hamilton or something? The guy who had the bow tie, and he was basically the face of Nintendo. Howard. There you go. Howard Phillips. I was way off. What did I say? Did I say Herbert?
Lincoln Hamilton.
I was way off. I don't know where I got that.
Is it? Well, I believe his full name is Howard Lincoln Hamilton Phillips.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Checks out. So he gave some praise to a lot of high-selling games this year, and one big omission. P1, what was that? You called it out in the moment for him not drawing attention.
Yeah. So he's reading off all these amazing games, and I was like, "Say Nier, just say it." And he doesn't mention Nier Automata. Yeah. Like, this game is massive for them right now. Working with Platinum. And Square Enix, and he didn't mention it at all. Now that I've granted, all the games he mentioned were Sony, I think in-house Sony studio games that were made, but I don't know. I felt like that was a bit of a slight against Nier. It's a fantastic game. I'm sure Ryan was also upset.
I was also hoping for him to slip the word Nier at the end. I think, did he end it with the game that ended with the N too? I was like, Nier?
He said Neo, and I was at first I was like, oh, that motherfucker got that wrong, and then I was like, oh no, he's talking about that weird ninja game.
I think though, because Neo and Nier Automata came out at kind of at the exact same time, in most gamers' minds, they get kind of thought of in the same breath. But when you're at his level, they probably don't, and he's going to name a few. I feel like Nier Automata is one of those games that's going to, and I know this is not the place to talk about it, but I feel like it's one of those games that's going to be hard to find in the future because it sells well, people like it, people love it, but to me, it still rides almost that. It's the highest level of cult classic kind of thing because it's not you can't find it in like Walmarts and Targets and stuff. Like, it's not that big, but it's, sells well. But anyway. Let's pick it up if you don't have it yet, because that's my prediction. It's going to increase in price in the aftermarket is my guess. There you go. What's next? Monster Hunter?
Yeah, so next up was Monster Hunter. That was the first big shoe to drop. There were rumors going around about this. I don't know if Steven's here, but I'm sure Steven is. Actually, Steven's probably on his way to the store right now.
Steven is currently buying a PS4.
Gold one.
He's gonna get the gold one. It's gonna end up in a stack somewhere, right?
Yeah. So right away.
So who's played a Monster Hunter game in the past? I have not, but
I have played. Go ahead, Ryan.
This one looks the most interesting out of all Monster Hunters to me.
It looks exactly like every other Monster Hunter. Exactly.
I never really paid
so Ryan, what drew your attention, Ryan? What did you find more compelling here than in previous cases?
Maybe it's just the fancy dinosaurs. It didn't look so monstery. It looked more dinosaur-y. So I was like, "Ooh, dinosaurs!"
I swear, I thought it was like a Turok reboot when I first saw it because I'm not familiar with the Monster Hunter series. And at first, I was thinking, "This is a surprise," but no, it's not Turok.
I thought it was Final Fantasy VII because I saw the big blade on the back. And
right, yeah.
For the first appearance, I thought this was Final Fantasy VII. They lied to us. But no, then I'm like, "Oh, dinosaur game." Big franchise, and then I kind of thought Monster Hunter, but I don't know. I've never really played one. I've only seen the ones that are on the 3DS, so they, I don't know. They've never really appealed to me before. I didn't see how you'd make the weapons because I think that's one of the things about the game is you make weapons after killing the monsters, but I didn't see it killing a T-Rex how you can make a weapon out of killing a T-Rex with wings, I guess. But I don't know. More interested in playing one now. Not saying I'm gonna run out and buy a Monster Hunter. Just more interested after seeing the trailer.
Yeah, and I think Monster Hunter, Fitnat called it out when we were watching that. He caught the fact that it was Monster Hunter based on the size of that sword that guy was carrying. It looks interesting to me. I think that big high fantasy kind of thing is nice. The one part I thought was borderline hilarious was he takes the cloak. Every time he was just running. He had this look of terror on his face. It was actually pretty hilarious. But yeah, so the name calls into question some interesting thoughts, right? Is this Monster Hunter World? It's not a numbered entry in the series. I think they're up to 5 now or something. I think that's right, but. Does that
5 would be the next one?
5 would be okay. So I guess the question is the fact they're calling it World. Does that allude to anything else? I think these games notoriously have multiplayer aspects, but do you think there might be more to that?
It's called World because they're attempting to remove the load screens. So as you traverse from zone to zone in this world. Instead of having load screens, so you're hunting, in Norfair, and now you're hunting in Brinstar. Instead of that, it's gonna hopefully be open and seamless, and it will have drop in, drop out multiplayer.
That should be interesting.
Is that an official Nintendo prediction there?
No, that's a quote from Capcom.
Oh, Capcom, they're great with quotes.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked it up.
I don't know how you're the only one who found that. That's pretty impressive. Wow.
But it looks. I'm really excited for fans of the Monster Hunter franchise. It's not a series that I'm interested in, but as soon as I saw this, I got excited for Steven.
Yeah, definitely, and he will be able to play that early 2018.
Also available on Xbox One and PC.
Oh, really? Okay. Not a launch exclusive.
No, there was a bit. I don't know if you guys. The guy
exclusive.
The guy, the main Sony guy, who we already established, we really don't know who his person is or whatever. He when he was announcing Spider-Man, which is a game we'll talk about, I'm sure, he specifically said it's a true PlayStation exclusive, and I wonder if that was kind of a dig on Xbox because he was specifically calling attention to the fact that it was like a true exclusive rather than sort of a console exclusive or anything like that. Although, of course, why wouldn't he say it's a true exclusive? Because it's a huge franchise, and of course he would. But I don't know. Maybe I was hyper aware of that type of terminology considering yesterday's presentations. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, considering the lack of live interactivity time with somebody on stage, like, you figured there had to be a jab in there somewhere, right? And so you've got a 2-minute talk here and a 2-minute talk here. That's probably as close as they could get. But yeah, so we can move on from there. The only other comment I had was they showed a ton of iterations of T-Rexes. So I wrote all T-Rexes all the time. And then that dragon showed up and totally ruined that tagline there. So.
Does the Monster Hunter series take monsters in a way that like Pokemon does? For example, like we see dinosaurs, we see dragons. Do they have just like sentient, traditionally inanimate objects becoming monsters in the Monster Hunter series, or are they genuinely? This isn't a joke. This is like a legitimate question. Like, or do they have like, or is everything what you would expect a monster to be? Like, are there crazy trees that come alive and you can kill them, or is it just traditional monsters? Right?
Like, is it grounded in like true mythology?
Yeah.
Or is it? Yeah.
Steven, care to answer that in the chat?
Sorry, I thought P1 was familiar with him, so you let me down, P1. We can move on, just as long as everyone understands that P1 did in fact let me down. Move on. Next story.
Yeah. So the next story was a story that is not new to a lot of us, but is getting a shiny new coat of paint. They are re-release. Well, I don't want to call it re-release, but they are bringing back Shadow of the Colossus. I assume it is remastered. There was no tagline of remastered. We've already had the HD collection for that and ICO, or Eco, whatever you guys prefer, and it looks like that's coming next year as well. That looked incredible.
Yeah,
I thought it looked real good. Ryan, do you want to talk about Shadow of the Colossus? Did you play the original? Do you play the original release on the PS2?
That might have been one of my first games I've ever played for the club. Was Shadow Colossus, and I kind of agreed with P1 about it too, about the horse controls. I think it's one I like the game, but I don't love it. I know it's seen as one of the best games of all time, but some of the riding the horse. One thing if they can fix one thing in the game, please make the horse control riding better, because it's awful. It's terrible in that game. Other than that, like, I have no problem.
He's got personality. It's like a real horse, right?
No,
you're thinking of the next game.
Yeah. But it looked good. For a second, I thought it was a sequel to Shadow of the Colossus, but it just seemed like I like remasters and everything, but I guess I was kind of disappointed it wasn't a sequel. I guess I don't know.
I'm super excited about it just because I never got a chance to play the original. I skipped the entire PS3 generation. And I was one of the earlier fans of Eco, whichever it is. I was one of the few people who weren't scared off by the North American box art that a lot of people in North America were, because it was really shitty box art. But I loved that game, really, really loved it. In fact, that was one of the games, Shadow of the Colossus was one of the games that almost got me to buy a PS3, but at that point in my life, I just didn't have the funds for it. So I've been looking forward to some way to play that game. I still haven't played the third in the sort of, I guess, trilogy of those types of games. What's that one called? The big Last Guardian. I haven't played Last Guardian, and that's what I meant earlier, Musty, when I was like the next one of the series, because that's yeah, sorry. So I haven't played that one yet either. I definitely plan to. It looks those types of games are definitely the types of games that are up my alley. Ones that do take an artistic approach to things that aren't necessarily you're not forced to have all these twitch reflexes, that for FPS games are. It's just sort of a more casual experience, though still difficult in a lot of ways. So I'm personally really looking forward to it. I was reading about other people who have played the previous. I was reading comments from other people who have played the original, and they were saying that from what they saw, it was definitely like a rebuild from the ground up. It wasn't sort of just a veneer slapped across it. It wasn't just sort of a casual upgrade. It was literally rebuilt from the ground up, which does, I think, to Ryan's point a little bit, say, if you're going to rebuild from the ground up, why not do something new or add some new features or do something new? And I saw in the comments that it looks like there's not any new Colossi. So that's a little disappointing for people who have played it before. But for people like me, yeah, I'm still really, really good. This will be a day one purchase for me, assuming that it comes out at not a $60 price tag. I'm assuming it'll come out at like $30, $40 maybe. And if so, it'll definitely be a day one for me.
It's available for pre-order today at $59.99 US.
God damn it! Never mind then. Fuck you, Sony.
Maybe what's called. I think they removed 4 colossi, if you will.
And they removed
the original. No, in the original game, they didn't have time to put them in.
Oh.
It was originally supposed to be about 20.
Yeah, and I think they removed it to get it out in time, and because it was already a long time in development. So maybe they will add that feature, because I think they had the models built. It's just they didn't have time to finish it up. So it'd be something to consider. I would consider if they fixed the horse mechanic and added more colossi to the game. I would consider picking it up again.
Excellent. You didn't like the original, so is this going to change your mind at all?
Didn't hate it. Just I didn't see why everyone thinks it's so hot, I guess.
It also came out, I think, keep in mind that it came out at a time when before games like visually stunning games like Bound and Journey and those kinds of games that are not a dime a dozen these days, but are just more prevalent. And that came out at a time when that just didn't happen. So like Ico, in a lot of ways, for example, was sort of the Journey of its day, because you didn't see those games very often. And so I'm wondering if that was part of the initial appeal. It was just something so different, giant, huge colossi. I'm gonna keep, that you would store in a bag, a colossi bag, if you will. Mm-hmm. And so it was just this giant, these giant monsters that didn't exist before, and maybe that's part of the appeal. So it'll be interesting to see if contemporary modern gamers do actually embrace the remastered version. It's almost like being able to do a true A/B test. You have original people who weren't used to that kind of thing, and now you have people who are used to that kind of thing. It happens all the time. Are they going to embrace this game? So I'd be interested in monitoring the sales figures on that one.
Yeah, definitely. But moving on then, next up was Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, coming soon on story demo, and September 19th will be the release date on that. Ryan, I know that you've expressed some excitement for that with your how you gravitate toward fighting games. So tell me a little bit about, did this meet your expectations? I think you kind of knew it was coming, but were you pleased with what you saw?
I want to see more of the roster. They showed some guys that weren't on the rumored list. I believe Black Panther wasn't on the rumored list. There's a couple names I'm forgetting. I think Dante wasn't maybe on the original list either, from the Devil May Cry series. It's my favorite fighting game series. And I believe the people who worked on Killer Instinct are also working on this one. So it also brings my interest, because I thought Killer Instinct on the Xbox One is fantastic. I see they're really focusing on story mode, and probably tonight after the show, I will download the story demo to see how it plays. I just want to see more characters, because that's one of the things. Even though I love MVC3, Ultimate MVC3, the roster still is not nearly as great as the second one. The second one is a fantastic series, and I'm worried that it's going to be riddled with DLC, because I didn't see any X-Men in there. But it's a franchise that I'm really looking forward to. I really love the MVC series, so the fact that they showed it again, I know it debuted last year I believe at PSX, so I'm glad they got to show more off of it. I hope Capcom releases some more details at E3. I know there's another day to go or so, but I wish I already seen gameplay, because they've released gameplay footage, so this was more of a focus on the story mode. And I guess, as you will, they're releasing the demo for the story tonight. But I want to see more of the roster. That's my concern, is this going to be a small roster. Knowing Capcom, knowing what they did with Street Fighter, that they're just going to do seasonal updates where they release characters by season. And I hate that when fighting games are doing that now. But I really do want to play this game, because from what I've seen, it looks fantastic from the actual gameplay.
That's great. Caleb, P1, either you on board for Marvel vs. Capcom? Is there
no, fighting games in general are ones that I tricked myself when I was younger into thinking I liked, and then I realized when I got old enough to have valid opinions that I just didn't, and I was comfortable finally after many years saying I don't like fighting games. So I'm sorry, Ryan, we can't be best friends. I just am not a fan.
All right, I'll just play by myself.
With you'll play with yourself.
Now there's a game I could get behind.
Yeah, no, this was the point of the conference when things started to go downhill for me. After the technical troubles at the beginning.
There was a window of about 5 minutes when you were on board.
Yeah.
I didn't have an issue with this trailer. The thing that took me out of it was seeing X in there and Zero. That the art style on them is different than everything else. I like the art style of all the Marvel characters and most of the Capcom ones, but for some reason they look really out of place. They're almost like they were like dropped in after the fact, and I know that's not the case. They've been, in every version.
No, they haven't.
They haven't.
Mega Man was in, I believe, the first one and the second one. Zero was in 3. So now
Okay.
X. This is X's debut in the Marvel series.
Gotcha.
Zero's back. One thing though, they didn't show it in part of the charm of the NBC series is all the weird, wacky Capcom characters from franchises that are like dead, or like you'll see Beautiful Joe in NBC 3, and you'll see I'm sorry, the dog from what's it called?
Is an R, right? Rocket or something from
Rush.
No. What's it called? I'm sorry, the Platinum game or the Clover game.
Okami.
Okami, yeah, the dog from Okami's in there. So I really, Phoenix Wright's in NBC 3. Just those weird characters, ones that that you from franchises from dead past. That's part of the charm, I think, with the series. But
is this the series that did that had the original Mega Man NES cover art version of Mega Man? The fat guy with like
the portly one.
Yeah, was that this series or was that a totally different series?
The first two games.
Fitnat says Street Fighter v Tekken.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
I think.
Okay, that's all I have to say. But I'm excited for it. I just hope, and I know it's probably going to be riddled with DLC. So
they're selling everything as a platform now. That's the new model for a lot of games is seasons and stringing it along so that you don't have somebody who plays it for 2 weeks and then sells it back, because those people aren't sticky. They don't hang around for long. Okay. So speaking of sticky games, ones that seem to the same people who buy it every year come back, we can shift into Call of Duty World War II. Did this hit anybody's interest at all? Any of you guys?
No.
That's what I thought. It didn't for me either. To me, because I realized that there were portions of that looked like gameplay, but I feel like that was a straight cinematic trailer to me, and it did not look as polished as I thought a cinematic trailer should look. Some of the animations were still kind of jerky. Like it just seemed. It didn't seem like.
Now your eyes are tuned to that 4K sweetness of the Xbox One X. Xbox One X.
Some of us, Musty,
XOXO.
we have to deal with regular old 1080p. All right. Get off your high horse.
What does future Caleb think about 4K?
4K's old. We have 38K now, both in terms of the price of the TV and the resolution.
You know what? There will be 56K. I would bet.
Why? The human eyes can't even comprehend. Sorry.
Maybe yours can't.
You're right.
My human eyes have this level of enlightenment, and all of a sudden we'll all be able to see 56K. Gotta pack in the pixels. So yeah, Call of Duty World War II coming out November 3rd. Let's continue on. Ryan, are you getting Call of Duty World War II? You can say no.
No. That surprises me though. I mean, it like just for a moment though. I mean, like, is it because I'm the newest of the people in the Cartridge Club here, and that surprises me that of 4 different people, all 4 unanimously like, no, not my thing, when it's such a huge series. So is that the nature of just the type of people who gravitate toward the Cartridge Club, or am I just wrong in that a lot of people statistically just don't play it as much as I think they do? I don't know.
I think there's a large number of, I don't know about a large number. There's a solid core of club members who play at least the story modes. I know Julian Vega is a big fan of the story modes and first person shooters.
So is Jake. Jake
yeah, so is Jake.
Is also.
Yeah.
I do too. I mean, like I've played some of them, but you
backpedal, Musty. You already said you're not getting it. You don't get to backpedal,
but I don't. I have played this one. Like I realize they're going back
because Battlefield 1 was a success.
Back when I liked it, like that launch title for 360, Call of Duty 2, that game was wonderful. Like,
if Xbox releases a 4K trailer tomorrow, Musty will pre-order it.
What holds me is
it pulled me away from Overwatch.
Let's say I used to like the series. But I'm burnt out on them. I would like to maybe play it just for the story mode, but just knowing from past that like I get burnt out with the online after a week now. I used to play it a lot longer. I used to really like the RPG elements of leveling up and everything, but it's just, and maybe they ease back into it. One of my biggest complaints about, and I didn't play the last one, which was in space or whatever, but Black Ops 3, they seem like they've added so many new little tactical features on attacking, sliding, and everything. It's just like it's too much. And I know people, that's the only thing they do is they play. They're coming up with these double jump, hover glide attacks and everything. And I'm just like, I remember just running around and trying to get guys from around the corner, basically. Now I have to worry about people sliding into me and all this stuff where it's just too much time to put into it for me to have fun.
That's my fear with a lot of these kind of games, these games that have been around forever, is that you have to. The knowledge that you have builds over the generations of games, like math, for example. I mean, you have to know basic algebra in order to know advanced algebra kind of stuff. And so it's the same kind of thing where I feel like because I've missed the first many Call of Duty games, I'm never going to be able to catch up. And I wonder if the developers are aware of people like me who may think that the trailer looks cool and maybe want to play it, but I'm not going to jump into it because I just feel like I'm not going to get it. And that's probably an irrational fear because I'm sure there's training and tutorial modes and all that kind of stuff. But I still feel like, what's the point? On the other hand, it's what's the point of a sequel? What's the point of more games? Unless it is building upon a foundation of stuff that people like, controls that people like, stuff that you don't really have to, that you shouldn't have to reteach those people about. I don't know. I mean, because to me, Call of Duty World War II, it looked interesting. It looked like something I would like. I enjoy a first-person shooter. I'm more of like sort of the Doom type fan, more so than sort of the real world type fan. But I'm interested, but I'm never going to play it because I'm afraid that I won't know how. If that makes any sense.
And I also want to say, it's going to come off the subject for a little bit, but I think it relates with it. And it's kind of what EA showed off with their NBA Live on how they had all these new features where, LeBron tries to go right, but he gets hip checked by KD, and then he goes left, and he missed it. He didn't hit his left analog stick on the right angle. I just want to, if I'm playing this, I like sports games. I don't want to have to be worrying about, like, trying to get the perfect crossover and hip checking guys. I just want to go dunk or try to block the shot. I don't want to worry about any of this extra nonsense. It's too much stuff. I just want to play a very small game. It's one of the reasons I kind of fell out of the show for PlayStation, because there's too many like little authentic things that are like, you have to like curve your bat to hit the a certain way, with the analog stick. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I just want to swing with the X or the square button. So it's like stuff like that's a big turnoff for me for certain games. And it feels like it's the evolution where I just I guess evolution where you keep adding more and more to the game, and it's not welcoming for newcomers.
You need Ken Griffey Jr.'s home run derby on SNES. I think. Top out there and they're good.
Ken Griffey and NBA Jam, Ryan.
That's pretty much it.
That's about it.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, so the not all games you don't necessarily have to see the previous ones to play newer ones, and so God of War, it was the next big one. God of War, they are effectively rebooting his reboot. It's set in a different environment from the original ones. We got a nice, substantial gameplay demo here, and it was graphically. I think I just said it was as brutal as it's always been. but this got my attention. I liked it. P1, what did you think of the God of War demo?
This so last year it piqued my interest. Sorry, I'm itchy. This year it guaranteed a sell for me and made me want to play through. I have beaten 1 and 2 before. I've never played 3, but I will play through those before this comes out. I am very excited for this. It looks like he's using Jarnbjorn, the Thor's axe, essentially. I love it. It's not, I don't think it's a reboot. It's Kratos has grown old and left Sparta and gone to hide from the gods, and now he's, because they at one point they in this what they showed, they reference how he's from away and how his people generally don't do very well here. But something that is really exciting that they didn't really show here is that this game is supposed to be seamless. So from the minute you start to the end, there's no cuts. Like it doesn't change scenes. You know what I mean? There's no load screens. It's you start in this building and you work right through.
Wow.
And so and the God of War games usually run between 8 to 10 hours to beat them. So you could potentially sit down on Saturday morning with a nice cup of Ethiopian bean coffee, or Kenyan if you prefer, and play this game straight through all day long. Have the wife make you a grilled cheese sandwich if she loves you enough for a little lunch snack while you're cleaving skulls. I'm really, really excited. I'm going to have to pick this one up.
That's good.
Yeah. I think it looks great as well. I played the first one. I stopped playing the first one because I hate difficult games. I'm kind of a pansy like that, and so the first game was notoriously difficult, very, very difficult. So instead, I let my roommate play that game and watched him play it and complete it. So by proxy, I felt I completed it. Didn't play the second or third or anything, but I'm absolutely interested in this as long as the game does not overdo it with the escort missions. You can imagine there's going to be a number of them just because by nature of you having a child that you need to protect, there's going to be a sense of escort mission there. But as long as the entire game doesn't have that, and I think escort missions are ones that are notoriously hated by gamers, so hopefully the developer understands that. As long as it veers away from that, then I think it'll be something I'll really be into. So it'll probably be something I watch. I wait for the reviews to come in before I actually make a purchase, but if I could be guaranteed there's no escort missions and I can be guaranteed that it's not going to be brutally difficult, then I could possibly pick it up day one. And I don't do that very often.
Have you played The Last of Us? Because I got a very much Joel and Ellie vibe from Kratos and Newt, or whatever this kid's name is.
Newt.
I did play The Last of Us. I played The Last of Us almost up until the very end, and then for some reason I lost interest, so then I just watched the rest of it through a Let's Play. I literally had like 20 minutes left, and for some reason I just didn't want to finish those 20 minutes. I don't know, my headspace was wrong, but I loved it. And so if it's that kind of thing, then yeah, I could totally be into it, because it didn't feel escorty, even though you had to. I felt like the two characters had their own integral roles, and it was very difficult to have one character die under your surveillance. But I think the difference there is that this boy in a God of War, frankly, looks like a turd, and I don't know that he's necessarily going to be as well equipped as Ellie is or was in that game. So I don't know. Does anyone else bothered by his hairstyle? Like, this kid has like a weird faux hawk thing, and I don't know if that was the big hairstyle back then, but I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Ryan, what's your thought on the faux hawk? And
the important part.
Honestly, I wasn't paying attention to that part, actually. So
did you even see the trailer? Come on.
I was more amazed by Kratos, I guess, than I was looking at the little kid's hair. It really. I did put in my notes, though. It looks like God of War meets Last of Us, and I kind of hope they approach it, because I don't remember having any problems with Ellie in Last of Us as like the escorting mission. Like, I don't think I had to worry about protecting her so much in the game. And I hope they also take like that approach, and maybe I think BioShock Infinite, I think that's the best where you don't have to worry about is it Elizabeth? She just goes and hides basically when the bad stuff happens, and throws you like ammo every once in a while. And P1, I don't know if I think they announced it last year when they announced God of War, that originally God of War was, I think, the Greek gods, and now it's the Nordic gods is what the series is focusing to shifting towards to that. So I think you're right about the whole, was it Thor's axe or something?
Yeah, and Bjorn.
But it looked fantastic to me. I'm a big fan of the series. I think 3 might be the best. So if you're gonna play that one next, that one's a good one to go into next. I think really got a worse.
I still need to play that one too. 3.
But yeah, I'm happy for it. I'm excited for it. You know, I don't. Did they say a release date or did it say 2018 or
early
2018?
Okay.
So January 1st, confirmed.
Gotcha.
Not actually confirmed.
You have access to Capcom quotes. You have access to release dates. This is incredible. You're a get. You are a get.
Only on the Cartridge Club E3, post show. Right? You get this.
Yeah,
you're not getting this on IGN, folks.
Start throwing those things around, and we crack 10 viewers. There you go. Bring it on. Let's hear some more. That's awesome. Good. Yeah. Any other thoughts on God of War? That World Serpent was.
That was crazy. You could literally fit inside the dragon's pupil. Like, that was insane to me. And I kind of wanted him to jump into the pupil, but turns out the dragon is helpful, so don't do that.
I got a Never-Ending Story vibe.
Falcor.
No, I was thinking the turtle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just that kind of scale right there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand anything that was said.
Do you think Atreyu is going to be like a downloadable character? Do you think we'll have Atreyu pop in there out of nowhere? God,
that would be awesome.
What if that kid is Atreyu?
Oh my gosh. If I was a modder, that would be absolutely the mod that I would hang my hat on for sure.
Detroit Become Human. Last year they revealed this. From what they had shown, it was in the vein of a choose your own adventure kind of thing, but the story that they showed last year was dramatically different from what they showed this year. So who's let's see, are any of you particularly? Brian, let's have you start this one. What were your thoughts about the changes, and what interests you about Detroit?
It actually, I am interested now. It was the same thing, kind of like Days Gone with the year previously, where a year ago I saw it, I wasn't interested in it at all. Now I'm somewhat interested into it. Looks like they borrowed a little bit of elements from Watch Dogs, where you have to tag certain areas, or I don't know if I remember if that's in Watch Dogs, but you have to set a flag or something like that. But it seemed like there's a little hacking elements to the game too. Like you have to hack androids in it. But I did like the fact that it's like a choose your own adventure kind of thing, where you can be a little bit like Infamous, where you can be either evil or you can be a good android, if you will. And I know it's made by David Cage and Quantic Dreams, and they've done other games like Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. So one thing is it's going to have really heavy focus on the story mode. So I don't know. I think it'd be a good game. It looks interesting. I don't know if it's a day one buy, but I'm more interested in it now than I was a year ago.
Okay. Fitnat made a good point in the chat that he says he doesn't think they changed the overall story. He thinks there's two flavors, two perspectives, and a lot of stuff by this developer kind of fits that mold. So it looks interesting. The angle last year though was a cop, and this year is kind of this sentient android rebellion thing, which is kind of terrifying. But yeah, Caleb, does this game scratch any itch for you? It seems very story driven, potentially. Yeah. Although we really didn't get the gameplay. It kind of got the here's this branching path. But
I love a game that'll do sort of some sort of social commentary and allow you to kind of look at society through the lens of this make believe thing. Unfortunately, I feel like the social commentary, at least based on this trailer that it's trying to offer, is a few years too late, because it just seems like a very wearing its intention on its sleeve sort of slaves, the downtrodden, you people need to be free kind of thing. And that's a trope that's been played out so many times before. But it is a good solid trope, building a rebellion, finding people to sort of get behind your cause and sort of freeing them and all that kind of stuff. It's a good noble cause, and it's one that just works over and over and over again. So I don't fault it for that, but it does make me a little bit less interested. This is probably a game that I would be really interested in watching a full Let's Play series on. I don't watch a ton of Let's Players. It's just not something that I'm terribly interested in, but there are a few that I do watch, and if those few that I do watch do this game, that'll be how I take it in. I won't need to necessarily buy it, I don't think.
Yeah. P1, is this a purchase for you, or is this...
I'm all over this. My wife's asleep in the next room, so I can't be as excited as I want to be excited about this game, but I'm all over this game. I loved Heavy Rain. Beyond Two Souls is still on my playlist. Quantum Break is a must-buy when it's under $20. I can't wait for this game. And see, are you kidding me? Like, you want me to lead an android rebellion against people? People suck. I can't wait. Those cops at the end, toast. I am pulling that trigger every time. In the game, not in real life. Go police. I'm really excited for it. I think it looks quick time eventy, make your decision and then it sort of plays out. I'm all about that. Give me a finely written story, 8 to 10 hours of gameplay. Can't wait. On board. So on board. I'm at Michael Huber levels of hype for this.
You enjoyed Until Dawn, right? You
loved it. Until Dawn was fantastic. If you haven't played Until Dawn and you're a fan of entertainment, play it. If you like being entertained, play Until Dawn.
Fuck entertainment. Just saying. I know it's a crazy stance, but I'm saying it.
Hey. Well, here's something that's very entertaining. Destiny 2.
Is it though?
I don't know. It's popular. It's not. I mean, it should be my bag. Like it should be my.
If the guy was green, you probably like him.
It's in my if he was green, yeah. Maybe. It's Bungie. I mean, I didn't play the first one. I think at the time that it came out, I didn't have the group to play with. So it's now's the perfect opportunity to jump in, right? I think that's kind of what they're going with for their pitch. Is there's new stories to be told, there's new legends will rise, and so it's bigger, better, or loot driven. Now, Sony did point out a lot of exclusivity here, which kind of stinks from the Xbox perspective, but it was the Sony press conference. So they said there was an exclusive strike called Lake of Shadows, exclusive gear, an exclusive ship, exotic weapon, PvP map, quite a bit. But I didn't catch what was actually happening in the story trailer. Or even if it was a story trailer, there was a villain of some kind. Yeah. But do you guys gravitate toward that style of game? Do you is Destiny something that you would give a try to, Ryan?
If there was a story mode, yes. But I felt, at least with the first Destiny, and I was told by a friend that if the Destiny that came out a year or two later after they added all this extra stuff to it was the game that came out would have been a better game. I played it from the alpha, I played it from the beta. I felt it was very bland and I got bored with it quick. I didn't see what was fun about Destiny, and I never would want to play Destiny again in my life. But if there's a story mode, I consider playing it. I would, but I can't tell. They didn't say. At least if they did, I didn't catch that there was a story mode. I know it looked like there was, but with how the first game was, I don't know.
P1, now that you are a first person shooter aficionado, is Destiny a pickup for you at all?
I just said I was really excited for the quick time event story driven game, right? No, I'm a no. I am excited for it. Well, a good friend of mine is a fan of Destiny. He's put in somewhere in the range of 500 hours, and I know he is looking forward to Destiny 2. So I'm excited for him. The best thing about E3 is not every game at E3 is meant for you, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good.
I'm still a no, though. It's
Hey, that's okay. Caleb, anything on that, or you? No,
never did play the first one. Again, my distancing myself from multiplayer campaigns is probably obvious by now. If there was just like Ryan, if there was a single player campaign, I'd be a little bit interested. But I think tacking on single player campaigns is something that doesn't happen it doesn't happen positively very often. Titanfall 2 is probably the one instance where it went from primarily a multiplayer kind of experience, and they thought, you know what, let's invest in the single player, and it turned out wonderfully. Titanfall 2 was one of my favorite games of last year. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I just don't see that same kind of thing happening very often, especially not with Destiny, which is a franchise, well, now a franchise that is so dependent on multiplayer. And so, no, short answer, no, I'm not too interested in it.
Okay. That's all right. But yeah,
Thank you.
Fitnat, we're excited. We are excited for you, and we hope that you enjoy your Destiny. And I hope that someday that those exclusives are not locked behind a purchase of a PlayStation. But we shall see. But yeah, let's see. At this point, they brought Sean Layden out again. I totally thought, and Ryan, you had predicted a price drop, and it didn't come.
No.
Disappointed, yeah. I thought if they would have announced, even if it's like a $50 price drop on both models, they would have it would have been a huge blow, I think, to Microsoft. Because you're absolutely killing it right now, and that's probably why they figured they don't need to drop a price. But if you could really just, I think if they drop the price, the Xbox One X is dead in the water. I just would have thought if you can get the Pro for $350 and $200 for a PlayStation 4, you don't have to worry about any competition.
Do you think that because the One X came in at $500, that they felt maybe they didn't have to, because they're already
killing it? It's still like every month it still is like the best selling console out there. It's in, I guess, if people keep paying the price for it, I guess why, if it hasn't slowed down, there isn't a price to drop it. But I think you could have really buried your competition. But competition makes things better. So
I'd be surprised though if there was a pivot based solely on the fact that the Xbox One X price point was what it was. I mean, those types of decisions about price point drops are decisions that have to be coordinated across distribution mechanisms. They have to be coordinated across all of the online outlets, everything. And so it seems like to me just one day would be too quick of a turnaround for someone to say, hey, all this price dropping stuff we've been talking about for the last few months, let's not do that. I'm not saying that can't be possible, but I would just say that it would be surprising to me if they decided not to lower the price solely because of the Xbox One X price point. I also think it's probably difficult for people not to know a little bit about the price point drops in this day and age. I read a great book called Console Wars, which talks about Nintendo and Sega, and it's an amazing book. But back then, this was in the mid 90s or so, back then they really were, Nintendo and Sega specifically, like they really did have like almost secret agents where they would like kind of infiltrate the other companies' quarters to try to find out price differences and changes and things like that. And I have a hard time believing that today that sort of espionage is still necessary. Like I feel like they could get their hands on a price point if they really wanted to know, if they wanted to. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see that if they didn't announce it, that tells me that they never planned on announcing it. That's my thoughts on it.
I agree.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I was just thinking that, I mean, they were already doing the sale this week to kind of encourage people to go buy them now. So maybe they didn't want to cloud that, because then all of a sudden the impetus to go get it now is not there as much, and it allows them to maybe make that sale in the fall when people are ready to drop that kind of cash at that point, and then they don't have to lose their profit margins, whatever. It's but yeah. He then said, okay, here comes the big exclusive, the big one, and a really substantial demo of this. I think we were all waiting for it. Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And I have my own thoughts, but I want to let you guys comment on this. I don't want to take the lead on this one necessarily. So, Ryan, let's go with you. What did you like about the Spider-Man demonstration, and are you sold?
Day one buy for me. This is a day one buy for me. Spider-Man is my favorite comic book hero, alongside Batman, and looks like they're giving me the Arkham games with Spider-Man, which I'm for. It looks like they're doing that same approach where they make you want to feel like you're playing like the superhero. Like games from the past, basically, they don't really do that. Some of the old Spider-Man games, they're pretty good, but this one looks like it's really, really well done. I know there's the quick time events, which makes me happy, but it looks like they're, I don't know. It looked, like I said, they gave me Arkham. The Arkham games are one of my favorite series, and they're giving me Spider-Man, and it's like a mixture of both. So I'm a day one buy on this one, and I think Insomniac's doing it, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a pretty well done game.
Yeah. P1, this one seemed to be some flavor of push the button. What's your thought on that approach to this for Spider-Man?
Sold. It looks great. He's funny. He's cracking jokes, and you've got Miles Morales, Ultimate Spider-Man, in there as well. So it's not just Peter Parker. You're going to have two Spider-Men flipping around town, which is fantastic. This game, I loved Arkham Asylum. If this is like that, I'm all for it. Dean mentions he wonders how open world it is. I'm okay with it. Again, I would be okay with it not be. I don't need to be able to swing all around New York. I just want to enjoy a good story. So if it is open world, great. I don't know how much time I'm going to spend beating up random thugs who are snatching purses, but the game looked really
chasing down balloons from kids who let go of them.
Yeah, but this looks really good. This was a great way for them to end this press conference. The show as a whole, it started out decent, had a bit of a dip in the middle, and then it was just like a freight train from the end of the VR stuff to the end of the show of great gameplay footage, and Spider-Man did not disappoint.
That's good.
Yeah, the dip in the middle, it's not coincidental that was where they placed the VR stuff. I mean, I think the fact that was a dip for you and for a lot of us was intentional. I mean, I think they have to talk about VR because they're the only console that has a specific dedicated VR interface. I know Microsoft, I think they have the Oculus Rift, or there's something going on there.
There's some partnership with the controllers, but there's nothing.
So they had to mention it. They had to mention VR, but yeah, it was underwhelming. I mean, unless you have the thing on your face, VR is not gonna. It's gonna be a difficult sell, as I said in the last hangout. But yeah, the Spider-Man trailer is amazing. And I'm someone who grew up on. I enjoyed comics growing up, but I primarily enjoyed them because I loved drawing and I looked at the art. So I have a somewhat tenuous connection to Spider-Man. But what I love about it, just from a game designer standpoint, is that the very mechanics of Spider-Man are so unique. The idea that you're inhabiting a human body that has its own limitations, and limitations that you as the player understand and feel, but at the same time there are some somewhat expanded upon things that you can do in terms of gymnastics and flexibility and moving around and stuff like that, and things that even games where you're like a giant hulking monster with like bazookas and stuff or whatever that might be, like even that is still primarily a human type of mobility kind of interface. But Spider-Man is so much different, and so even if it wasn't Spider-Man, even if it was just some random character that could do all the stuff Spider-Man could do, it would still be an amazing, incredible game and an incredible experience, I think. And so that's what I look forward to. That's why I think it works so well. It doesn't matter that it's Spider-Man. There's some connections there for some people for it being Spider-Man, but it's just the mechanics are so incredible and there's so much opportunity there. My fear is that it's going to be too much, and I think this is what Musty mentioned a little bit at the beginning. It's going to be too much of a quick timey type of thing. My fear is that you don't necessarily have the freedom that you would like to, but again, very similar to actually the Days Gone, I think, what we're talking about. If the game can train you on what to look for and how to approach various obstacles and environmental aspects of the game, then I think you can get away with it and you can have some fun with it. But my fear is that it's going to be too quick-timey, and I may wait till Ryan purchases it day one, get his thoughts on it, and then I might purchase it day 2 or 3. But that's my fear.
Yeah, like there was some flavor of it that like to me it almost looked like a rhythm game, just because I'm used to playing amplitude and frequency and use the triggers a lot in those, and so you kind of see that L1 R1 just back and forth. The combat looked really good, and I think the fact that it is kind of there are those timed button presses kind of allows for that. But I'm excited for it. I think it's definitely something that Sony can hang their hat on as a great exclusive from, technically not a first party studio. So
I don't think it's something to fear though, because Batman, the Arkham games, is very much like that too, where they have the buttons which you can do. Now it says, like if you want to knock out the guy, you press the circle to do the knockout. And it's slightly, you'll see like whatever the triangle hanging above his head. You don't have to do that. You can do something else. It's just like they're recommended. Oh, the double takedown. If you hit circle and X here, you can take down 2 guys at once. I think it's gonna be something closer to that. I can understand.
Rise Son of Rome did that on the Xbox as well. So I mean, there's lots of games that have that kind of combat. I think the one thing is there's a lot of the movement areas, running through a building and like bouncing off of desks and things like that. There seems to be only one path in that. Like I don't see you taking different angles. It's going to look awesome if you hit, if there are buttons to press, and he did at times had to negotiate things like ducking underneath the air conditioning unit, rolling over him and then catching it, and it was cool. I thought it was.
If a developer can find a way though to make that to sort of make those feel less contrived, those QuickTime events, and really make you feel like a badass, then that developer is going to be printing money. I mean, that's an experience that gamers want. So I hope this is that. I'm really looking forward to it, but we'll see.
Like some sort of flow parkour thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to simulate. It's hard to simulate when all you have in your hands is buttons.
Exactly.
Yeah. And no one is doing Spider-Man VR. That'd be a little much. I thought the city swinging section that they showed looked really good. It called back to the second. I think it was Spider-Man 2 was the open world one on PlayStation 2. It was on Xbox as well, but that one I thought did that really well. But it was truly open world, and I could see this was clearly a story mission, so that you kind of put all the other stuff on the rest of the world kind of get. But
it is weird though. I mean, before we move on, like the one thing is, I guess we should temper our expectations and not really be disappointed if the game is not open world, because in the canonical realm of Spider-Man, like how often does Spider-Man just hang out as Spider-Man and just swing from lamppost to lamppost? Usually he's on a mission. There's something he's trying to do. And so we shouldn't be too disappointed if it's not open world. And I personally wouldn't be. Open world is one of those things that I think it's bandied about as a band-aid to some less than stellar mechanics. So I would prefer if they would actually focus on mechanics and not just try to dump a bunch of open world aspects and promises onto you and ultimately let you be disappointed. So yeah.
I think the last Infamous, who Insomniac made, I think, who's making this game, they did, I think, a really good job of making that open world, but not, being like an overwhelming open world game, where you could just go do the linear story, and here's the points on the map if you want to do it. Otherwise, if you want to just run up buildings, here you go. And I saw a lot of the same elements from that game kind of implemented in here, like the running up the building, the running alongside the building with your hand on the wall. So they probably are using the same engine from that first game, or from the third one, which is on the PS4. And I thought that was a really well done game. So I think a lot of those mechanics play well in this game. So
cool. Any last thoughts on Spider-Man? Then we put a bow on Sony, and I want to ask the same questions we asked yesterday. What disappointed you about the Sony press conference P1?
Technical difficulties on this stage are unacceptable.
Okay, and Ryan.
My expectations were too high.
That's fair. That's fair. And Caleb.
And too much VR.
Much VR.
What about you, Musty?
Lack of polish in a couple of situations. I expect you're going to bring something that it's not obvious where the animations begin and end, right? I want seamless. I have high expectations as well, so maybe that's a little bit of that. I'm used to, especially now when there's so much prep going into this, that stuff where you can see the seams just isn't. It doesn't sit as well with me. But and then what was the other question we asked yesterday?
Something I really liked was God of War. That's highlight of the conference for me was God of War. That just, oh man, that got me. They hooked me.
Yeah. How about Ryan? Highlight of the show.
I think the majority of the games they showed were something that the interest. I think the games that they showed I really liked. So my list, I didn't see too many games that were off put me. Where I'm like, oh, I don't want to play this game at all. There was a lot of I want to play on this. Not sure if everything's a day one buy, but somewhere down the road, I really would like to play this game. So I think what they showed, was really strong.
Yeah. I think, Brian, I think you articulated exactly what I didn't realize I was going to say until you said it. Just everything other than VR, that's a big asterisk in my my book. I would actually play and I would actually enjoy. So very, very little fluff, I felt.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm the one in this group who doesn't own a PS4 right now. I don't feel myself running out tomorrow to go and pick one up, but I'm pleased with what. Hold on. Hold on.
I don't think your wife's gonna let you. I don't think your wife's gonna let you buy a PS4 and an Xbox One X in the same year.
And Switch.
And a Switch, maybe.
And a 4K TV.
I already have the 4K TV.
I know. I mean, that's already you're already in debt. You know.
No, we paid that off already.
I mean, wife debt. Like she's already let you buy that. You know.
Fair
anyway,
enough.
Go ahead.
She's watched like 2 movies on it since we got it. So I try. But as I was saying, I'm not going to run out tomorrow and go pick up a PS4 because of these. But I know that when I do get there eventually, that there will be some excellent titles for me to play. So overall, I'm positive on this, and not drawing comparisons to anyone else who presented is probably the best way that I can approach that. So, yeah. So let's move on from Sony. Last night was Bethesda. We basically went right up to the start of that show. Did you guys all got a chance to watch it? Not necessarily live, but
absolutely, I did.
It was short. It was to me, it felt very short.
It felt very Nintendo Direct. Like it could have just been a video that you watch online. So I think if I were there in person, I'd be very disappointed. But yeah, it was very short. But Bethesda does a lot of unique things, and we'll get into this. That every year I'm reaffirmed with Bethesda being my favorite, definitely favorite developer, and probably one of my very favorite even publishers of games as well. So. But yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so they fired up the presentation with a really nice montage of all of the employees of Bethesda's kids kind of talking about what their parents do. It was I thought it was cute. And then they proceed to show some of the most gory and disturbing games that I've ever seen in my life. So
Bethesda.
Yeah. So, and then they introduced what they called Bethesda Land, which was kind of a theme park that had different worlds, and each of them was catered to a specific game franchise that they highlighted throughout the presentation. I was really hoping that the one section that was under construction was going to be bigger.
Yeah.
I was hoping there would be more stuff that we didn't know was coming. But what did you guys think of the presentation overall? Caleb, you said it, felt kind of Nintendo Directy, but
I loved it. I'm admittedly a Bethesda fanboy. Again, I love everything they develop and everything they publish. All the stuff I've played, obviously, but I thought it was really cool. I love the Bethesda land framing device. That was something that was leaked on. I guess if it's on purpose, can it really be a leak? But it was pushed out earlier than the conference. People got a sense of what Bethesda land was, and they saw that there was this under construction part, which was smart on Bethesda's part. They sort of were able to lead the chatter in a way that true leaks aren't really able to do, and that's very typical of Bethesda. They want to control as much of the narrative as possible, and I think they did a really good job of that. And the other big thing that I thought was really, really, really cool and definitely something to stand out is that every game that they talked about are games that are going to be released in 2017. There was nothing future. There's nothing in 2018. Everything was 2017, which I think goes a long way to show a couple things. Primarily, though, how good they are at keeping a lid on certain things. And I don't know who the source of leaks are for a lot of publishers and developers. If it's internal, then that might show some sort of dissatisfaction among the employees. I don't really know, but maybe it goes to show like how much people are really invested in the company of Bethesda. They really enjoy working there. I'm extrapolating a lot here, just mind you, but at the same time, I think that's really cool that they are able to control that narrative for so long, knowing how much of a big company they are. Because if you really think about it, I mean, they are just a developer. They're not a console manufacturer. They're nothing that big. They're just a developer. And so controlling that narrative was really, really, really cool. I was a bit sad that there was no Todd Howard there. He's the head director behind Fallout. A little bit sad that he wasn't there, but I kind of knew that he wasn't going to be there. But they did talk about a few things that I was really happy about. I will say, just so I don't forget, I'll say it now. When they first started introing the Wolfenstein 2, for a split second there, I was so happy because I really thought it was like a secret Fallout project, because so much of it felt like Fallout, the 50s vibe, the sort of 50s throwback vibe. There's even some cutscenes before you realized it was Wolfenstein that looked like vaults. They looked like Fallout vaults. And so I was genuinely, like, I had my Twitter account up and I was tweeting almost like ready to hit send on, I can't believe this is a Fallout game. And then I realized, oh, it's not a Fallout game. But it does feel to me like it has some of the sensibilities of a Fallout game. And I don't know if the same developers kind of work on Wolfenstein and Fallout. I'm not really sure. But it has some of the same sensibilities. I think most striking of that is toward the end of the Wolfenstein 2 trailer, when you saw the 7 or 8 month pregnant woman who stabbed a Nazi as some dude was tripping acid. That was like that's very Fallout-y. And so I would love for this to almost be like a younger sibling or sort of a cousin of Fallout, even if it's only the same writers and sort of the same sensibility behind it. This is also, I think, the first Fallout or the first Wolfenstein game. I'm messing it up already. The first Wolfenstein game to take place in America, which there is a small part of me that would love to see those universes kind of collide to some degree. I love Fallout too much to say that I would love for that would be a great thing, but I think it would be a really fun thing if something like that happened. I don't think it ever will, but it would be kind of cool, to be honest. So Wolfenstein 2 is probably a day one purchase. In fact, I went to GameStop earlier today to see if I could find Wolfenstein, the first one. I haven't played it yet, and they didn't have any, unfortunately. So I will have to buy that very shortly, but very much looking forward to that. So fanboyness over. Love Bethesda.
Yeah, let's keep talking about Wolfenstein while we're here, and then we can blend in the flavor of what you guys thought about the presentation as we go. But Ryan, are you in on Wolfenstein? Is that scratching any kind of itch for you?
It made me want to go buy New Blood, which is I think the DLC that came out for that Wolfenstein. I know they released it on a disc also, and I know it's part of I know the first Wolfenstein that they released from this generation, and New Blood's like in the $20 shelf at Best Buy. I know I've seen it there like a week ago when I was there. So now I'm probably this weekend I'm going to stop in Best Buy and probably pick up New Blood. I enjoyed the first one. The difficulty at the end gets pretty tough, but it's still manageable game. But it's I really liked what I think they're going with this direction. I don't know if it's a day one buy, but maybe somewhere down the road and pick up. But I really, really did like the presentation of the whole Bethesda show. Wolfenstein, I know what you're saying, because like I think I was thinking it too, because even when the old guy gave her like the ration, he's like, here's a ration. And I was like, oh, is this another Fallout? And
and there was even a small glimpse of like New Orleans. Like there was actually a sign that said something about New Orleans, and that was a big leak from a few months ago, where people thought Obsidian, the developer who'd made New Vegas, was working on maybe a New Orleans themed Fallout. And so I wonder if that, when they showed that some of this game takes place in New Orleans, was actually the source of that leak, or maybe there truly is still a New Orleans game kind of happening. I don't really know, but yeah.
Yeah, it looked good. Like I said, I'm interested in it. It's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Juan, you playing the Wolfenstein?
Yeah, I'm going to get it.
It's first person. Come on, you don't do this to us.
No,
you're the guy.
So the aesthetics, I really enjoyed the whole Bethesda conference. I think I said it last night. I like when a developer has something they do well and they do it well and they continue. You know, like we make first person games fun. We make good first person games that are immersive that people enjoy, and so we don't do many third person games. Nobody cares because we make amazing first person experiences. I am not a fan of Fallout. Sorry, Caleb. I'm not really a fan of the Elder Scrolls. The aesthetic of this game sold me, and I have seen nothing on New Order. I'm looking it up right now actually to see if it's local, if I can get it locally at EB Games. If it also looks like this, if it's in the same kind of world, I'm 100%. My question though is, having never played these games, what type of first person, like what type of shooter is it? Is it like a story driven, level to level?
Yeah, very story driven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Pam actually was mentioning in the forums that it was like one of her favorite story driven first like game. She might have said one of her favorite first person or favorite story driven games like of recent memory, but she may have qualified that by saying just first person. So anyway, if her opinion matters, and I think it probably does, then she's definitely a fan of it as well.
I want to get it. I said it wrong. It was Old Blood. Was the DLC. I think I said it wrong. I think it's the New Blood. So Old Blood is the DLC.
And the New Order is
the game, and then
So it seems like the order of the day for me was here's a game that's coming that looks a lot of fun. You should probably play the game that came before it that you missed.
Yeah. Similar.
So yeah, Wolfenstein. I'm in. Bethesda did it. It was the only game from their show that I am going to purchase. I don't really have an interest in the others, but so happy it was. I liked that it was like a Nintendo Direct. I like that. Here's some footage, short amount of time, not a bunch of people talking. Enjoy it. They're all coming out this year. Very well done. Yeah. So impressed.
It felt meaty to me, this conference, even though it was short. It felt like I got a lot in, even though there probably wasn't that many games. I felt like I got a lot, in this short amount of time.
I feel like all of the games except for all of the announcements except for maybe like the Creation Club, which we may talk about, and maybe even Elder Scrolls Legend. All of the other games were games that like people truly wanted to know about, even though they may know they already exist. They may have seen leaks, but they were all games that people like were clamoring for, which was smart to them. But again, they are just a single studio, so it's not like they have a ton of other games that they're working on. These probably are the only games they're working on, so it's good though.
Yeah, and there were a few trailers that were kind of like the critical acclaim trailer, like where they're just showing. There's a lot of reviews of people who are like, "This is a great game," everything I wanted in a game. You had that for Elder Scrolls Online. They reiterated the Morrowind's out. You brought up the Creation Club, which is the new modding community for Fallout and Skyrim on both consoles and on PC. And so they're really pushing that. The community creators are working with Bethesda. That they're going to be new weapons and armor and crafting and gameplay enhancements and things that they're really kind of getting behind, which is good. And I mean, what it does is that it does keep the Skyrim legs continuing to move. and the Fallout 4 to keep that going as well. It's interesting how we quickly shift. If you would have talked about this 10 years ago, modding is in the PC realm and that's it, and consoles would just isn't feasible. But now we're here. This is the thing, and it's really happening. The other critical acclaim trailer they hit was the Elder Scrolls Legends, which is the card battler. They're doing a story content from the Dark Brotherhood, and it's coming to phones, and there's Skyrim stuff coming too. I'm not much into the card battler, so this didn't.
Nope.
This I'm not that much into the MMOs. I'm not into I don't have the current gen Fallout or Skyrim, and I don't play card battlers. So this was the low point for me, because they started off. I want to go back to VR. Before I do that, your guys' Wolfenstein comments, I'm pretty much on par with where you guys are at on that. I would like to point out that it was the first F-bomb of E3 got dropped during that trailer, and then 2 more times as well.
Technically, I mean, well, if you consider the actual meaning of Doom VFR, then technically there's maybe one weaseled in there.
Good segue. So yeah, Doom VR, Doom VFR.
I'm confused by it, to be totally frank. Doom 2016 was my game of the year last year. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Didn't really grow up on the Doom franchise, so this was not my first introduction, but it was the first one I even cared about. Fantastic game, but the problem, or the potential problem maybe, is that Doom 2016 is so focused on forward momentum and so focused on line. And I even did a video about how that's the one thing about Doom 2016 that worked really well, and that without it, the game wouldn't have worked. And that's that there's this sense of forward progression and line, similar to the way, honestly, you see with like a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, as weird as that sounds. Doom, the level design is set up in such a way that you can't help but move forward, and that's what you're supposed to do, and that's what you do, and there's no nonstop. VR, by its very nature and the clunky kind of mechanics of its controls, at least the way they exist now, prevents that sort of forward momentum. So I don't know how they're going to do it. The few kind of shots that they gave, I was specifically tuning into the Doom footage with this in mind. So the few instances where they did show the character actually moving through space, it was almost more of a Go type game, like Hitman Go or like a Tomb Raider Go, where it's like you moved into position before you actually, shot, and you started unleashing your weapons and things like that. I don't know if I was reading too much into that, but I don't know how Doom will work, how it works in VR. I just don't get it. So I'm really excited to see how people who are into VR, how they actually handle it, specifically people who are big fans of Doom 2016 and fans of VR. I would love to get their particular take on it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you a I mean, none of us are in the VR realm. But it's interesting to hear, Caleb, you went from none of this VR is interesting to me to this. It's compelling, right? I mean, it's at least...
It's compelling in the sense that I'm not sure how they're going to do it. Like, I still am not going to purchase. And even really when they talk about Fallout 4 VR, I mean, Fallout is my favorite franchise ever, despite how wrong P1 is. It's my favorite franchise ever. And even that is not getting me enthused about VR. And if that's not going to do it, then I'm never going to get. So I should probably just shut up and stop being a broken record about it. I'm never going to like VR. So all of my comments on it are probably just the game is not for me. And so I would love to see one of my favorite streamers. His name is Many a True Nerd. He does great Bethesda and a few other gameplays. Very, very great commentator. And so he will probably do a Fallout 4 VR playthrough that I will watch, and that'll be the only way I receive it. There's no way I'm buying VR based on any of this stuff.
Good. Yeah. P1, how about you on either Doom VFR or Fallout 4? Like, how do you see those playing out, and are they at all interesting to you?
Next topic.
Fair enough.
I think
you
it's
don't
because
get Ryan's thoughts.
He's so near climax that he's like, I better move on, guys. You guys can't, he's very excited about this. I can tell.
I'm not into VR. Doom's not my style, and I don't enjoy
Doom's
Fallout.
everyone's style, though. It's so good.
It's really good. It's really good. On another
mind, I tried playing Doom. Quick side note: I tried playing Doom when it first came out. I rented it. I put it in, and I was not in the mood for it in the moment. And then 6 months later, I played it, and I tore through it in 2 days. Literally tore through it in 2 days. And it was great. I don't know what it was. I was just not. It wasn't.
Are you talking about the 2016? For me, not until I put it on easy mode did I actually love it. Like, that's the weird thing. Like, I had it on medium, and I was getting my ass kicked, and I just wasn't having fun with it. As soon as I put it on easy, and I was like, this is a genuinely fun game now that I can just kind of tear through things and not really worry about too much. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a little support for easy mode.
Yeah. But let's talk about Skyrim. Yay, Skyrim. Let's talk about the Switch version. They had a reveal of the Switch version of Skyrim, which was initially teased when the Switch was first shown, and then later confirmed that it was actually coming to the system, and now we actually have something. Thoughts on the trailer? Ryan, what do you think about this?
I've never played Skyrim, really. I mean, I've rented it once on PS3. Didn't really care for it. But I think with how the Switch is, I almost consider probably getting this version. It really tallies back to how I enjoyed playing Breath of the Wild, where I would take it out to work, play it on my lunch break for like 20 minutes, maybe even doing like the grinding, like the parts that I don't want to sit around with my television playing, but I can hammer this out in 10, 20 minutes on a lunch break, and then come home, put it in a dock, and if it looks great, awesome. And I'm kind of sold. Plus the Zelda DLCs, like that's Zelda's my favorite franchise, so you're gonna throw a more beefier looking Link in there with the Master Sword and the shield. It really, that was like, if they knew how to tickle my feather, basically,
you'd have to open that amiibo first.
I don't have that one yet, so now I would have to purchase that one. So, but that's something. I hope they can implement more like amiibo into Skyrim besides just Zelda. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe see something, maybe the Fire Emblem series guys or something like that. Just something like that. But like, it was more tempting for me to buy the Switch version than maybe buying the remastered version on the PS4 because of the portability. So,
yeah, I'm 100% on that with you. I've never played Skyrim before. It seems like a game I would really love, and so as soon as I knew it was coming out on Switch, I decided I was going to wait to purchase it until then. So that'll be my first introduction to the series. So it'll be interesting to see, once it's released, all of the people who have loved Skyrim for years and years and years, what they're calling attention to as being not as good as some of the earlier iterations, because it'll be interesting for me to know whether or not I even care about those kind of changes, those differences. And so, because there are going to have to be some differences, whether it's just graphical fidelity or if it's entire sections of the game that simply can't be ported over due to the size of Skyrim, because that's really what grabbed headlines, I think, when it was originally released or originally announced on Switch, is that it's such a big game. How could this possibly work on the Switch in its limited hardware capabilities? And so I will be buying it, definitely. Maybe day one, depends. All Switch games are super expensive, so I just have to digest that fact and maybe purchase this on day one, but we'll see.
What do you guys think about motion controls? They kind of demoed in the trailer, like, you
won't ever use them. Probably won't ever use them.
Yeah, I won't ever use them either.
Get the Pro Controller or keep it docked. Not using the motion controls. Look dumb.
Yeah. Likewise,
but you can pretend like you got a shield, and then you're sword.
Nope.
The bow and arrow I thought was interesting, right? Because you actually kind of like lined it up, and then you click the button to let go.
It's so weird to even think like. So I have a Switch. I love the Switch. If you bracket only Breath of the Wild really into that sphere of love, everything else is pretty lame. But even with like Breath of the Wild, which does do well with certain motion control elements, the arrow shooting, you can kind of move the similar to that you could on the Wii U as well, but like move the thing around. That's really cool. But if I have my Switch like kickstanded up on the table, I'm not using these two separate controllers. I'm using the single docked controller, whatever it's called, the grip, the Joy-Con grip. Like, I'm not using those because to me it seems like that control style is going to be very situation specific, and I just don't know if I would ever convince myself that that's the best way to play a game. It's always going to be a single controller.
Sure, definitely. My only dislike about this trailer was the music selection for it. I didn't think it was this poppy kind of thing. I really didn't think, like, I get that they're trying to associate it to the Switch, but just because it's on Switch doesn't mean it needs to be cutesy or poppy. Like, it's still Skyrim. Like, it's still a mature rated video game. Like,
are you gonna have to put in a blood code, do you think?
I hope not. I hope not. I mean, for me, it's not a problem. I don't have a Switch, but and I've already played. I've already put in significant time to Skyrim, so I think I'm good there. The next game they announced, I wasn't sure whether this was DLC or not, and ended up, I guess, that it's not. This is the next installment of Dishonored.
I thought it was DLC. I thought they said DLC at the end of it.
Did they say it was DLC? Okay, then
I could be wrong, but I thought it's a DLC to Dishonored DLC. I thought
it's getting a physical release.
Good.
Well, I will. You talk about it. I'll verify.
Yeah, it's called Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. The release date's in September 15th, and it's some like cyborg assassin set in that world in that time. What do you guys think? Did either of you play Dishonored?
Never played one, so
I have.
I wouldn't be the best to ask about it.
I have. I'm a fan. They're fun. They're fun games. They're not my favorite, but they're definitely fun games. So any sort of additional DLC is definitely I enjoy. Although during this conversation, I learned I did not know before this. Ryan, you mentioned that I think Old Blood Wolfenstein was originally DLC but released on disc. So I wonder if that's similar to what this is, because I did also think it was DLC, and I think one of the commentators shortly after the presentation mentioned it as being DLC, someone from GameSpot or IGN or something. So I assume it probably is. Also, just the breadth of the trailer itself seemed pretty self-contained. It didn't seem very, large. So I would assume it probably is DLC. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I enjoy the Dishonored games. They're fun.
Confirmed. This is a standalone adventure. You do not require Dishonored 2 to play. It is priced at $30, so expect it to be a smaller scope.
Looks like your Blood Dragon. Kind of.
Sure. Yeah.
Doesn't require the original game. That's probably the only connection that I have to that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's your gateway drug to Dishonored, because one of the characters in it is from one of the DLCs from Dishonored 2. So.
Gotcha.
It is physical. That at the end of the conference, it did say it has a physical release.
Okay. Cool. Next was their big esports pitch for Quake Champions. They introduced in August in Texas, the Quake World Championships are taking place. There's a beta going on now. They introduced BJ Blazkowicz, who is the Wolfenstein main character, as a playable character in Quake Champions. So all of us are into competitive multiplayer arena shooters, right? So this kind of fell flat for me. I don't know about you guys, but they talked this one up. They 2 years ago was Wolfenstein, last year was Doom, and then they kind of teased that this year was going to be Quake, and this year actually became Wolfenstein again, and Quake is kind of this secondary thought that I'm sure hit for a lot of people who dug Quake, but yeah.
They have a Quake Con.
Well, Quake is all they have.
Yeah, it kind of missed for me.
Yeah, I mean, Quake is all they have for the arena multiplayer. I mean, every studio's got to have something to some sort of entrance into the esports arena, and so that's theirs. And Quake, as they tried to really hit home on is sort of the original esport, in a way, or at least one of the first ones that really caught on massively. And I don't know if that's necessarily something to hang your hat on, especially if you haven't really evolved the genre as much as it seems like they have not evolved it. I mean, it seems like I played Quake a little bit when I was younger, and this game, based on the trailers anyway, doesn't seem like anything more than what Quake was, other than a graphical upgrade and some other, mechanics, I guess. But I don't know. It's all they have for that esport thing. And as we saw through the E3 presentation, there's a lot of focus on esport and competitive stuff. There's also a lot of money in it. I mean, it's a huge moneymaker for these developers. Mm-hmm. So of course they're going to push something there, but I don't know. I doubt it's. I just can't imagine it catching on the way that any of the others have. I just can't.
Yeah, there's so many other games that have such an established fan base that even though Quake, I'm sure that they grew up on Quake, I see it hard to pull people away from something that they've sunk that much time into already.
And it's also it's PC only, I assume anyway. I'm sure it is, because why wouldn't it be? And there's so many other esports that are not PC only, that are console as well. And so there's so many other the competitive the selection of competitive events in the PC realm is just so much bigger. There's so many more things you can do on PC in terms of competitive esports that it's going to be very hard to, I think, pierce that world. So it's an uphill battle. Even though you have the name Quake, it's still an uphill battle, I think, for them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I think the last game that they showed off, I think we've covered everything else up to this point. The last one is coming out on October 13th, which is a Friday the 13th in October. So the world's probably going to end, right? Evil Within 2 is going to come out. What were your guys' thoughts on this trailer, Ryan? Let's go with you first.
Reminded me I need to play the first Evil Within again. And I just started. I never finished it. I liked what I played, even though it was pretty difficult. I didn't see too much gameplay. I just saw more cinema. So kind of surprised that it's coming out this year, because I didn't see any gameplay. I imagine there's maybe somewhere down the road, maybe Tokyo Game Show or somewhere they're going to show gameplay footage of they're expecting it to come out this year, let alone October. So just remind me, I think a theme I'm seeing this year for E3 is, like Ori and Evil Within 2 coming out. That there's games I need to play before I can play these sequels that are kind of got my interest going.
It's funny, they're showing us new things, and all it's doing is making us need to play the old things.
Yep.
Okay, and that's why they do franchises, right? That's why sequels get made, right? Is to bring people into the originals. So, P1 Evil Within, is this does this hit for you?
No. I mean, this is another case of I'm really excited for the people who enjoyed the first one, who like this franchise. I didn't see Mikami. Was he attached to this one as well? I didn't remember seeing his name, but the trailer just seemed really chaotic to me. I couldn't tell what was going on. I can only imagine what the gameplay would be like. I think I'll just stick to my my Wolfenstein.
There was this weird Westworld kind of liquid vibe to it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that was by design because of the popularity of the show, but there was some genuinely like disturbing moments. They ended with a decent jump scare too at the end of it. But Caleb, what are your thoughts?
So I only played the demo with the first one, so I don't have too much connection to that. And the demo of the first one didn't quite grab me. But strangely enough, I was really excited about this Evil Within 2 trailer until I realized it was the Evil Within 2. Everything up until they said the title of the game, I was like, this sounds like something I would really like. This seemed cool. It seemed like it would scratch that sort of Death Stranding itch, just because it had this very fragmented sort of narrative style in the trailer and everything. And I like that a game is confident in telling you nothing. But at the same time, it's in the hands of Bethesda, so I know it's going to be good no matter what happens. But as soon as I realized it was The Evil Within 2, I realized immediately that, oh, this is a horror game. This is a psychological horror game. It's a game that obviously takes inspiration from your Silent Hills and things like that. Those are all games I played before. I played some of the Evil Within 2, the original Evil Within already before, so I just didn't care anymore. I wanted it to be like a truly unique thing. Even if it was still survival horror, I'd be fine with that. But I still wanted it to be something truly unique, like almost its own IP. This was what I was hoping was their new original IP, and it wasn't. So it was a bit of a disappointment for me.
Yeah, cool. All right, yeah, I was definitely going to echo your Silent Hill comment, but you got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, that's good. That kind of wraps it for us on Bethesda. You guys want to again do kind of either like or dislike. Let's just do one thing and maybe highlight whichever one you want. From there, let's start with Caleb.
Wolfenstein 2 is a highlight for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. P1?
Since Caleb stole mine, I'm going to say that the conference as a whole was a very well put together package that I was happy to see. It was a nice breath of fresh air.
And Ryan?
Zelda Skyrim.
Yeah,
it's weird seeing Link as like an actual person. It's strange to me. I have a feeling that in the real world of Skyrim, if you dressed like that, you'd get the crap beaten out of you. That's just my thought.
Not if you beef him up a little bit longer.
That's true.
You'd get an arrow to the knee.
Nice Bethesda.
Yeah, I mean for me the presentation was good. It was well put together. It was crafted appropriately. Nothing jumped off the page at me though, so I was kind of lukewarm on it, but not because it was a bad presentation, or not because, I mean, there's still some big titles that they announced, and there's still plenty coming, and we're only talking about the next 6 to 9 months really. Mm-hmm. So we all know that Bethesda does not make games that churn out that quickly, but Bethesda puts a lot of effort and time into their stuff. So I was really hoping for Elder Scrolls 6, but the comment was made that with Elder Scrolls Online, there's not a need for them to rush that, and they're still milking the Skyrim, cow as it is right now. It'd be silly to overshadow the Switch version of Skyrim with a new consoleized version of 6 for everyone else. Like that just wouldn't make sense. So maybe next year or the year after that. So on and so forth. So let's take a couple minutes. I know that somebody really, really, really wanted to hear about Devolver Digital. I hope that Miles is still here. I haven't seen him in the chat for a little bit, but this came on after the Bethesda conference. Devolver Digital is the company that's known for the Serious Sam games. And from their presentation, I can totally see where that personality comes from. Or you can see the roots. They're definitely showing there. It ended up being a 15-minute presentation. When I popped on to check it out, there was a wrestling match going on with somebody with a paper box over his head, or a box over his head, and they were calling him Dr. Cube Man or something like that. I don't know maybe I clicked on the wrong link. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but all right. I don't know what you were.
I think that came up after. It was either pre-show or post-show for that. They did more stuff than what they actually presented, but the presentation itself was kind of this pre-recorded thing. I don't know. I legitimately thought that there would be a true presentation happening, and I feel like my expectations were missed. But Caleb, go ahead and tell me your thoughts on the Devolver Digital presentation.
Well, we talked about this offline a little bit, and I was the only one of all of us that genuinely enjoyed it. Not so much that our opinions differed slightly, but I believe the three of you hated it. I genuinely enjoyed it, and it's probably the high point of the entire conference for me, even as a Bethesda fanboy. I know that sounds crazy, but I just felt like it got it. Like it knew what it was it knew what it was there for. Like it knew it was the underdog. When you compare Devolver Digital to all the other studios that have their own conferences, there's no comparison. Devolver Digital is a tiny little nothing. Their biggest game is probably Hitman Miami or Hitman Miami, Hotline Miami. So such a big game that I can't even remember the name of it. They recently released Strafe, which was just a simple like throwback to the mid 90s sort of first person shooter game. They don't have a lot of any big AAA games, and they knew that about themselves. And so I honestly went into their conference or their section expecting nothing. I knew that they would have to do something more than just show games because, again, they are such a small studio. And they did do a lot more than just show games. In fact, they just tore the crap out of the entire E3 conference ethos. So if you're watching this and you don't really like E3 and you think E3 is a stupid thing to begin with, and you're really just watching it for all of our charming personalities, then I think watching the Devolver Digital presentation is definitely something you should do. It felt like, so it happened late at night, which I think was important. It wasn't a midday thing. There wasn't going to be a huge audience for it to begin with. And it felt like the Adult Swim of E3 conference material. It was something where they capitalized on the opportunity to do something with that medium, with that time, that no other company was really going to be comfortable doing, because the other companies have a lot to lose and Devolver doesn't. So they just kind of went crazy with it. And I felt like they hit everything pretty well. I mean, comedically, missed a few beats, but really overall comedically, like it was well refined. It was just a good, entertaining thing. So I think I went into it with the right expectations, and I was definitely not let down because of that. And it really made me a bigger fan of Devolver Digital to begin with. I mean, I have Strafe. I plan on playing it soon. I haven't played it. I'm not a big fan of Hotline Miami, so I played Genital Jousting, which is another one of theirs. That's right. It's a game, and it's a surprisingly fun game, despite what that name might imply. Or maybe not. So anyway, they do a lot of weird stuff. So yeah, definitely the Adult Swim of E3, and I appreciate that.
Sure. Okay. I felt like the platform, even though, like you said, the audience really wasn't there. The audience that's up and actually watching that probably would find that amusing. I felt like the platform was to just take jabs at the big companies. They made some comments on early access purchasing and prepaying and making sure that you can just throw money at a screen and make sure that it gets into the developers' wallets and stuff like that. It was, by the end, she just started yelling a lot.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, okay, it's over. I'm good. Yeah. So
that's fair.
So that is that. If that sounds like your cup of tea, minutes. If it's not, don't feel obligated, because it's not. It may not change your mind. I mean, I don't even think IGN covered it.
No, I think the only place I saw
it being announced, and they were on their schedule. Like, they were on the schedule. Maybe they watched and were just like, yeah, we probably shouldn't.
The only one I heard was Polygon, which I'm a big fan of Polygon. They're not the biggest news games journalism place out there. Pretty big though. But Polygon did it, and Polygon was actually sort of on my side with that. They said it was the best thing that you didn't watch at E3, basically.
Sure.
But yeah, I hadn't read any of the other big names to see kind of what they felt about it. So yeah, just set your expectations appropriately, and I think it's fine. So there is though, to be fair to you, Musty, I think there is an element of, if you're invited to the party, don't make fun of the host kind of thing. And yeah, I think there
you go. That's exactly the vibe.
Yeah. So there's I don't know why they were there, because again, they're not big enough that they should be there. So I don't know.
They had 2 games. They only had 2 games to show. Like, they showed Ruiner and a Serious Sam, like twin stick shooter looking thing.
Yeah. So I don't know how they got to be on the schedules. I don't know how they got there. Someone liked them and someone put them on the schedules, and so yeah, they were using the occasion to, I think, make fun of their host a little bit, and that sucks. But I also, it's that type of, I think it takes something like that to get people to, I think, seriously reflect on, like, a lot of the stuff that we've complained about for some of the big players. I think there's some truth to what Devolver was trying to shine a light on when we talk about, like, why use this as an opportunity to sell DLC. Well, that's kind of what Devolver was saying. Like, why use this? I mean, they were mostly focused on like microtransactions and things like that, but the concept is the same. You know, you're asking people to pay money for something that they should have already paid for, and so it's there. But I don't know. It made me a bigger fan of them. So
cool. Okay, we'll move on. I think for the sake of time, we're gonna do Ubisoft now, and then I think we're gonna wrap after that for the night. It's already we're at the 2-hour mark right now, and there's quite a bit to go through with Ubisoft. Maybe we can find some areas to clip out, but I think we will. Any comments we have on the PC gaming showcase will move to tomorrow, since all we have to focus on is Nintendo. You know, Nintendo's presentation itself is only 30 minutes, so really, like, what's there to talk about? We'll do that. So we'll go into Ubisoft now. And the comment was made earlier that they kind of, a lot of what they had there was a lot of cinematic stuff. There were some interesting things that came up in this presentation. A full-out music video at one point in the middle. To the right audience, which I don't think that the audience watching the E3 presentations cares about Just Dance, but there is a new Just Dance coming. You know, hooray!
Sub-Zero was dancing in Just Dance.
Yeah, it was the Sub-Zero dance crew. There was some K-pop that got mixed in there too. There was what looked like a diseased panda that has been hiding in somebody's like closet for a while. That's coming this October, and then some soloist who I have no idea who she is. Yeah, so all of the Aisha Tyler money went toward Just Dance 2018 apparently for this presentation. But okay, now that that's out of the way, the big first reveal was the Mario and Rabbids crossover. The rumored and teased and leaked kind of game was Israel, and right out the gate they brought out Miyamoto, which was fun. What did you guys think of the presentation for this? What do you think of the game? P1, let's start with you on the Mario and Rabbids tactical. I don't want to call it an RPG, but it's effectively a tactics game. XCOM, sure, yeah.
XCOM Mushroom Kingdom. The internet is in love with it. It is now the internet's darling after being slammed for 2 weeks. I'm still not sold on it though. It looks like XCOM Mushroom Kingdom, and I'm happy that they are letting people take chances with their IP. I am happy that Ubisoft wants to make games for the Switch. I wish that they didn't feel like they had to shoehorn Mario and Zelda into every fucking game just to get people to buy them. But unfortunately, they do. You can look at the sales figures of the games, and if they don't have Mario and Zelda in them, it doesn't matter how good the game is. Nobody buys it. Wonderful 101 is a perfect example. I feel like this is a case of that. This is probably a good tactical RPG that Ubisoft had a plan for and wanted to make, and I feel like without having Mario in there, nobody buys this. Nobody even cares that it exists. And that kind of sucks.
That's a really good point. Ryan, is this as a Switch owner, is this on your radar? Are you going after this?
This is a hard pass for me. This doesn't look interesting at all. To me, I don't know if there's anyone really interested in it. I don't know anyone who really likes the Rabbids series to begin with. I never really liked them. I think they're kind of off-putting, but it just doesn't look like a fun game to me. I'm glad the internet likes it. I know the guy who's the creator was like very grateful when they panned to him in the audience. He was happy.
He was gonna bust into tears.
Yeah, he was very happy to be there and happy that they let him make that game. Like, it must have been something he was really attached to, and it was fun. It was it was fun. It's just I wish I could get excited for it. I just can't. It was a good presentation, but it makes me think when you see Nintendo have a big reveal on Ubisoft for this one, and Bethesda have the big Switch reveal on their show. I wonder if they're doing that to, maybe that's one they're preparing for the 30-minute show, because they're already kind of giving away the bulk of that. Like those could have been 10 minutes here, another 10 minutes here. So they would give away 10 minutes, so it could have been a 50-minute show. Now it's down to 30. They could just do a quick walk by. They're like, oh yeah, Rabbids Mario and Skyrim. So just a quick walk by.
Sizzle reel, yeah. Well, you could hit the Minecraft cross compatibility too from Microsoft. I mean, the Switch has shown up in every presentation except the PC and except Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Caleb, are you into the tactical?
I like them. I'm interested in this game. Probably won't purchase it, so you can skip me. It looks okay enough.
I thought the notes I had was that I love the look. Gameplay looks fun. But yeah, the part that like stuck out the most to me is they let Miyamoto walk around with a gun, and then the one that they gave to the guy from Ubisoft was really nicely styled, and it had like the level 1-1 on the side of it, which was kind of cool. But yeah, the creative director, like when they cut to him, like there's something there. Like I mean, he's clearly looking up to his idol in Miyamoto, and the fact that Miyamoto has that kind of faith in him, I'm sure that means a lot. And so
yeah,
he looked like he was gonna just bust into tears. But yeah, we're going to move on. It seems like the internet loves it, and so that's a good sign. It's not getting the Federation Force treatment. I wrote down Assassin's Creed Origins. We kind of brought it up yesterday, so I don't know if we really need to dwell on it a whole lot more. I kind of tuned out for that.
Likewise.
Seemed like more of the same. Then we had The Crew 2.
Talk about tuning out.
Yeah, I did not care at all. So
yeah, there was one point there was no music. All you heard was motor sounds, and it was super soothing. Like it could have put me to sleep easily, despite how extreme the game is.
It looked completely different, I believe, from the first game, which was like you could drive anywhere in America, and this one was just more story focused. It looked like to me from what I saw the clips. Now I didn't listen to the guy speak because I was occupied at the time, and I didn't figure it was important to pay attention to this part because I wasn't really interested. But it just looked different to me. So
I didn't realize that people raced crop duster airplanes. Like, is that a thing? I was not aware that was a big thing. So
yeah, there's a whole Red Bull series. The giant cones and out over the water. Yeah, it's weird, weird stuff. But yeah, at one point there was a bike, and they drove it, and then he did like a side thing, and then this plane came flying by. It's like, what is this? Are you serious?
I just don't have enough testosterone to warrant being enthused by that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I'm missing it. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe The Crew's not in our wheelhouse, but then they cut over to South Park.
Yeah,
gave us a release date, October 17th. And the trailer on this was great. Caleb, you want to talk about?
I'm a huge fan of these games. I've been a huge fan of South Park since the beginning, and I've waited forever until Stick of Truth for a good South Park game. I pre-ordered Fractured But Whole as soon as it was announced, and so I've been disappointed every time the date's been pushed back. So finally, to see what I feel like is actually going to be a firm release month, at least, I'm super, super, super excited. For anyone who even kind of likes South Park humor and has not played The Stick of Truth, do it. I think you might even be able to still, I know when I pre-ordered Fractured But Whole, you could actually get a free download for Stick of Truth as well. That might still be going on. So basically 2 games for the price of 1. So worth it. And as long as Matt Parker and Trey Stone, I know there's another South Park game that was announced, the mobile game Phone Destroyer. If Matt Parker and Trey,
Stone, Trey Parker.
Yeah, thank you. If they are involved in that game as well, then I'm all over that one too. I mean, if they touch something, it's magic, and if they don't, then it sucks. So I'm really hoping that they're involved in that mobile game as well.
Yeah, we're hoping we're not getting a Chef's Love Shack on the N64.
I hope not.
That wasn't that bad.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
No, it's not. The first one's pretty bad, but that one's not that bad.
But yeah, the humor's there. I would expect nothing less, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hearing Timmy insult
Cartridge through telepathy. Yeah,
that was great. Yeah. So the phone game looks like it's more of, well, they're keying on what like Final Fantasy Mobius is doing and Brave Exvius is doing, where it seems like you have a phone tapper of a RPG, but it's cowboys and aliens and ninjas and there's some stuff.
Wasn't it Cockmage or something?
Yeah. That's when South Park is the best in any medium, is when they show the kids just being kids and just having kid adventures. They go off, they jump the shark a few times, quite a bit, and that's when it's less interesting. But here's another situation where it's the kids being kids, they're pretending to be kids, and it's going to be really fun. I anticipate South Park will play with microtransactions. That seems like something that they would absolutely make fun of. So I'd be surprised if this game had them. And if it does have them, it's going to be done in such a way that's probably so funny that I'm just willing to give them microtransactions because I'm basically paying for a good time instead of just paying for stats or whatever. So I'm really looking forward to it. I do have high hopes for it, but based on the Stick of Truth and what promises to be the Fractured But Whole, I think my faith is warranted in this being a fun game. Again, as long as Matt Parker and Trey Stone are involved in it.
P1, are you in on the South Park? Do you like RPGs?
No, I don't enjoy the show, and I haven't played the game. But I'm excited for those people who like it.
The next thing that came up, I don't understand what it is. It's Elijah Wood, and I was like, "Ooh, Elijah Wood, cool!" Like, it's called Transference. Did you guys get a feel for what this is? Is this an interactive movie? Is it a VR?
It reminded me of Videodrome. It's an old James Wood movie. And this was really strange.
Yeah, it reminds me, based on the admittedly short trailer, it just reminds me of why I think VR is doomed, and that's because the only way you can have a successful VR experience is if you're calling attention to the fact that you're in VR. Like, you can't divorce yourself from that experience. A controller is a fairly typical thing. It's ubiquitous. People have come to embrace it as something that's not necessarily an extension of themselves, but just a interface device. Whereas VR is something that calls attention to itself. You put on a mask, you're feeling that mask. You hold the things, you're holding those things. You can't divorce yourself from that. And this is another like narrative experiment, I would say, that really is just playing into the fact, it's calling attention to the fact that you're playing VR. And that can only last so long. Like, that's going to end at some point. So I guess it's good that there's some celebrity backing to it this early in the VR life cycle, but you can't just keep doing that. And I think this is just one example where it's, I don't know. It's not, I'm not excited about it at all.
Well, it was weird because it started off as them talking about it like it was something else. And then all of a sudden, everyone who was talking about it was in kind of this, like, it was almost like a brainwashed kind of shared hive mind kind of talk about whatever this is. And about like uploading consciousness and then being able to play consciousness. I don't know. Not sure what it is. It was weird, but I just was like, is this a game? Is this just an interactive movie? Like, what are you showing me? Because I don't feel like they actually showed it. Like, I'm sitting there watching other people in VR, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of how I feel when I see people watch it, in VR, and I can't see what they're seeing. But yeah, Ryan, P1, did you guys have any additional thoughts on Transference or?
Sharp used to sell a Quattro television that had a fourth color, and it was yellow. And the yellows were so much brighter and had so much pop, and I never saw them because I only ever saw the commercials on my old regular TV that doesn't have that yellow. And just like Caleb said, I'll never buy VR because of it.
Those were the George Takei commercials, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're like, look at how bright these yellows are. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm looking at this on the TV that doesn't have that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I just found out that Inpatient, the PlayStation VR game, is actually a prequel to Until Dawn.
Oh,
so maybe I'll buy the game and play it in Barry with Julian Vega if I can convince him to bring his
across the border. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll let him bring that electronic device across the. Coming into Canada won't be a problem. Getting back to the States, maybe.
Sure. You're one of the 10 countries that we say no, thank you. Not true. I'm sorry.
So the next game that came up, we got to keep moving through this because there's still a lot going on here. I want to quickly talk about what I'm going to call No Man's Skylanders, which is Starlink Battle for Atlas.
This is the dumbest fucking thing I've seen all week. That's what this game is.
It seemed like they had a unique. So at first they showed the Switch controller, the one.
It seemed like they had their heads up their ass, Musty. Don't fucking cover for these guys. It seems like their heads are right up their asses.
Hey, I'm trying to cover this. We're trying to be a news outlet.
Who wants to try and play a video game balancing a fucking toy in your controller? Come on.
It's for every controller. It's not just the Switch. It's also for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
And I don't know how that's going to interface. Like, how does that interface? Like,
I don't think it does. I don't think it interfaces at all. I think it's literally just a plastic thing you attach to your controller to look like an idiot. Like, if you're playing a game and you're thinking, God, I wish I could look like an idiot, you buy this, instantly you're an idiot.
Oh wow!
No friend, that's why online gaming exists.
Now my ship can shoot fire. Like.
It's a rip-off of Skyrim's and Disney Infinite, basically.
And they no longer do that, so I think they should have taken it's a weird time to invent to announce a new toy peripheral when Disney.
They probably were in production for so long. It's basically, and they're just like, well, we have all of this crap. Might as well try to make it seem cool at a presentation. So
So No Man's Skylander is what we're going for there. Then let's go to Steep. So Steep was announced last year. There's an expansion coming this year ahead of the Olympics. So that expansion is coming out December 5th. It's like Road to the Olympics. I thought this was weird. I'm used to the Olympics getting their own unique titles. So shoehorning it into a snowboarding game or skiing game,
or a Sonic the Hedgehog game, totally
yeah. I mean, I'm used to Sonic and Mario now. Like that is the new Olympic game. You used to have like Capcom Gold Medal Challenge on the NES. Like there were very specific games crafted for the Olympics, and now the fact that the Olympics is basically a DLC pack to sell Steep instead of releasing it as most recently, I think it was like a Torino Olympics game, which was like 2002 or something on the PS2. But it seemed weird. Thoughts? Anyone care?
No,
it's not. So Steep is on PS4, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch. Steep Road to the Olympics is not coming to Switch.
Well, I got plenty of other stuff going to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably just because Nintendo fans have better taste in games, but ramping up for tomorrow.
So let's go to. We've got 3 games left to cover, and I want to leave the one they revealed last. I want to save that for last. Okay. So let's talk about a new IP, which there were rumors of a pirate game coming, and so they revealed Skull and Bones, which is exactly that. It is a pirate. What seems to be a naval combat game. So again, P1, you are automatically going to be better at this game than everybody else because because yes, totally fact. What did you guys think of this? I think for me, I feel like they took Black Flag and said the thing that people really liked out of this was the boats. So let's just make a game that's the boats. But yeah, what do you guys think, Ryan? What's your thought on Skull and Bones?
Looks like a bare bones game, and
bare bones, very good.
Looks like a bare bones game. Looks like it's made for only online team combat, because they even said it's like 5-on-5 combat. So I'm like, boring. No one don't care. I have no interest in this. After I saw no story, or at least it's implied to me that it was 5-on-5 only game. I had no care. Don't care. Fast. Lost in
Caleb.
Yeah. I'm definitely not interested, but I do like that. I mean, it does look a little boring, to be honest, but I like the idea. If I can sort of be empathetic with those who do enjoy online multiplayer experiences, the idea of kind of owning your own ship and sort of being the captain of your own ship, this sort of a vessel that can move from mission to mission rather than sort of locking yourself to a specific land or something like that, is pretty cool. I think that'll scratch the itch of certain people who really want that kind of thing. It's not for me though.
Yeah, I mean, there was the ship customization I thought was kind of nice. I thought the fact there was a female captain on a ship was interesting, but that could just be them showing that there's a customization to who you are as the captain. I don't know. I mean, I really hope that if they're going to do this and they're going to do it right, that it has something single player, because if it really is just you 5 people each have a boat and you can fight, like that's a $40 game. That's not a full price game. And to put that kind of emphasis behind a new IP that isn't substantial is kind of setting it up for failure. And I don't want to drag this on any longer, but it seemed like he even came out to try to promote it as like an esport game. So the guy even kind of came out, or I was just like,
I get the sense that it's a. Does anyone remember the game that came out fairly recently called For Honor? I'd be surprised if you did, because it kind of is already gone. But that's kind of what I feel like this game is going to be. Is that For Honor felt graphically cool. It felt really neat. It was a new idea, something very cool, but was just. It didn't. The infrastructure didn't support the player base, server issues, and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that this would have server issues, but it feels like that this game could very easily fall into that. It's sort of a one-trick pony, and there's not going to be a whole lot of meat to it. I'd like to be proven wrong though, because it seems like this is a concept that is ripe for expansion. I mean, oceans are endless. You can do anything on the ocean, and why not let people do that? So I would like for it to turn out to be good, but I just don't think it's going to be.
I just think, like, are pirates going to be the new zombie?
Probably, yeah.
I would rather play Sea of Thieves than play whatever this is, because it seems like there's at least some flavor of collaboration in Sea of Thieves. At least at this point, I haven't watched any of the demos and things like that, but it seems, yeah. I don't know. I could be totally misguided on that, and but it overly not that compelling. But the shifting gears to one of the already known, they had already made Ubisoft had already made this announcement that Far Cry 5 was coming, set in modern day Montana, among a county that has been taken over by a religious cult. What did you guys think of this presentation? What did you guys think of the sort of demo they did for Far Cry 3?
5.
Ryan, let's go. Ryan, you first.
I'm not the best person to ask, because this is the one trailer I missed, so I'm sorry. Sorry. That's
sorry to put you on the spot. My bad. Caleb, Far Cry 3.
5. I'm big into it. So I played 2 Far Cry games prior to this, and those games I never finished, because those games are the mission system in the games that I played there's too many options. That you're paralyzed by possibilities. Essentially, you can go to any number of missions, and it's very difficult to understand and see what exactly is the primary story mission. And so this trailer, I think, answered some of those questions. It felt to me like there was a bit more of and I'm probably extrapolating too much from it, but I felt like it was a bit more of a direction that went to it. There was also a little less, it was less intimidating, knowing that you do have characters that can kind of help you out and follow your direction, even if they're NPC characters, but they're still characters that seem smart enough. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be nice. This trailer sold me on it. I was interested before, and now I'm definitely gonna buy it at some point for sure.
Again, we have a for the most part single player first person experience. Does this do anything for you?
No, I'm sure it'll be good. Far Cry's a franchise that people love. It's controversial. Anytime you're shooting people in the face because they're assholes is a good time. But it's I tuned out waiting for the next beat.
The one beyond it. Yeah. No, that's totally fair.
I get it.
I
don't think he even realizes what he did.
I don't think he did.
Who, me?
You said the one beyond it, and that's why.
Okay.
There you go.
Got me. This trailer kind of put me off to this game. Like I'm actually not, like, I didn't play Far Cry 4. I played 3. I loved 3. Like 3 was excellent to me. I didn't get a chance to play 4, didn't play Primal. I don't know, there's just something about this setting that just doesn't sit well with me. And I'm not trying to say that, oh, you shouldn't make the game. I'm not someone who's going to go sign a petition over this. But like cursing for the sake of cursing in a presentation, the guy who came out and just decided just to drop F-bombs and stuff. I know that they ended up doing it in the actual gameplay and hit it a few times, but it's just it seemed out of place. And then he had to call attention to the fact that he did it, out of like, oh, look at me. I
think he said French.
He said I was supposed to. Because he read it off the teleprompter, and then he said I had to say that. Is what he said.
Oh, I thought it was like I wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Maybe I'll re-listen.
Yeah, it felt weird. I don't know, like the imagery is just kind of it's kind of tough to watch, and I can see how there are people who are upset about that, but it is a creative outlet, and so if people want to, I mean, there are people who got upset over like Homefront: The Revolution and the fact that there's this was it North Korea's taken over the states, like
people were upset about Far Cry 4 with the depiction of the guy having like a man-slit slave or a boy slave for 2. So you're not supposed to like these villains, No,
you're right. So, I just don't know that I need to live in that world and be, subjected to that. I don't know. They could surprise me, and that game could be a ton of fun. I don't know. The setting right now doesn't seem to say, "Come on in, come enjoy this game with us." And it's a little serious for me, I think, and real, surprisingly real, and maybe that's part of the reason for it. But
I think that's the reason I like it. I mean, you and I are both from sort of the Midwest, and this hits. I would be lying if I said that this was terribly far. I mean, this is quite a bit exaggerated, but I grew up in a small town, and parts of this hit home, and I think that's why I actually enjoy it. I'm like, yeah, this will be fun. I can sort of work out sort of the repressed nature of my childhood, but I did not suffer quite what was in the trailer, so I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But anyway.
Well, video games are a power fantasy in that situation, so no, that makes sense. But yeah, so if there are no other thoughts on Far Cry 3, the biggest surprise,
still 5.
Still 5. It's late. It's late for you.
Yeah, especially
the shit. Musty's drinking. Ryan's not watching the videos. Come on. next year is the Caleb and B1 show.
Yeah. My apologies to everyone watching next year.
Telling you. Far Cry 3 is the one I played. It obviously resonates with me somehow. So, there was one more reveal, one more thing, and there was something I noticed as they would do the Ubisoft logo, and it would have some kind of effect to it, and that would kind of tie into the game that they were showing. And this last one had kind of this, if I remember right, it was kind of it was almost like an electronic kind of feel to it. Like Steep had snow, and some other ones had sand and things like that. But this one had this kind of electronic thing, and they went into the reveal. They didn't tell you what it was, but there was this space monkey. We'll call him Space Monkey. Handing over what looked like a gold idol to a pig man. So this was the long-awaited and very much, this was kind of on a lot of people's like bucket list for game that I need to have be real and come out. So this was the reveal for Beyond Good and Evil 2. My prediction from yesterday was that Beyond Good and Evil 2 would get announced, and they did. Now there's, yay, no Sony price cut, but Beyond Good and Evil 2. I wanted this to happen. A lot of people have wanted this to happen. And I don't know if it ever. I still don't know if it's ever going to happen. Let's just be real here. There was no date given. There was no. It was just a video. We had a video years ago.
They didn't say what platform it was on.
They didn't say what platforms. I mean, it's certainly from the visual quality. It looks like it's going to have to play on. I mean, is it Switch capable? Who knows?
In their defense,
will it come out during the Switch's lifetime? I don't know. But this was a big deal. It ends up it's a prequel to the actual story from the original Beyond Good and Evil. Although there is a character in there who has some similar features to Jade. Maybe this is Jade's mom or Jade's past relative. But yeah, what did you guys think of the reveal? Did you know, like, at what point did it dawn on you that this was what it was? P1.
As soon as I saw the pig, I was excited. I wasn't a huge fan of Beyond Good and Evil. It's a fun game. We played it for the club. I didn't love it as much as I had hoped to, but I did have fun with it. I was more excited to see Michael Ansel come out. Or Michelle, he's French, probably Michelle. And the emotion that he had knowing that, this dream is one day closer to becoming reality. That is what I got excited for. And I will play this game. I enjoyed it. I liked the look of it. I'm hoping it's available on Switch so I can put it on my list of games to compel me to buy a Switch. But if it's not and it's only on PS4, well, I've got that too. So,
yeah.
No, I look good. I'm very excited. But I, like you said, this is not a 2018 game. We'll be seeing this at E3 for the next 2 or 3 years,
and hopefully
that's never again.
Yeah, I mean, well, the last trailer came out was 2012, and that had Jade and Paige in the trailer, and that just sort of died. Like there wasn't anything about it. So all of a sudden, this comes back. What did you guys think of the forced language?
Yeah, it was weird in
the trailer.
It was it was obviously trying to be edgy and trying to be, I felt like it was the kind of thing that people would do like in the mid 90s to be extreme. Like it was just this overly flamboyant character who was trying to be the cool hip guy. And I had never played the first Beyond Good and Evil. So perhaps this is part of that environment or that canon that was built with the first one. I have no idea, but it did feel a little bit forced. But at the same time, I also, it was fun enough and enjoyable enough that I can't give it too much of a hard time for trying to be extreme for the sake of extreme. And cussing and things like that doesn't bother me too much at all. So I usually when I hear cussing though, what that signals to me, just as a narrative guy, that signals to me just laziness. Like there's always a better way to say something that's cussing, even if you are trying to write the type of character that does cuss a lot. There's other ways to do it to make it more creative and more, to put your skill into it. So that that was my takeaway when it came to the language. But again, it still seemed fun enough, and it still seemed like there was some genuine camaraderie between those characters. And I just, I'm interested in it, even though I've never played the first Beyond Good and Evil. And I will say that the fact that it's a prequel to me, that's almost necessary. I mean, this game the original was released 15 years ago, I think. There's going to be a lot of fans a lot of people who have not played that original. So you really either have to do a reboot or you have to do a prequel. You can't really do a sequel with that much time gap, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. It would be nice if I'm thinking down the road, assuming that this game does come out, to have the trilogy piece be the next, you teach them this story, which they could surprise us, right? They say it's a prequel, but there could be some supernatural stuff that pulls in that main storyline from the first game.
Prometheus
I'm sure there'll be plenty.
Wasn't an alien movie.
It was just a bad movie.
But Prometheus wasn't called the Alien.
Ridley Scott. This
is called BGE2. Which is weird, right? It's not 0.2, it's 2.
No, but I'm saying, like you said, they're saying it's a prequel, but maybe it's not necessarily prequel. That's that's in support of that, because Ridley Scott was on record as saying Prometheus is not an Alien prequel. This is its own movie. It's its own thing. It's not connected to the Alien universe, and he was clearly full of shit. In both the movie and his statements.
Yeah. I think the new I don't know. I feel like they're going in the right direction with that. I hope that maybe 2 years. I don't know how far along they are. They obviously have a big team because then they pulled all of them on stage. The vibe I got from that was like P1. You mentioned his emotion in the fact that yes, I put my cards on the table and I said, yeah, this is happening, right? And push the chips to the middle of the table, and it's like if it doesn't come out, it's kind of this guy's kind of putting his reputation on the line here. But then he brought up, it was almost like he was getting an award, and he brought up his entire production team, and then they forgot and they said, "Oh, it went to Moonlight." That was an Oscars joke, but clearly that didn't.
I think every E3 press conference should end like an episode of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
With everyone hugging each other. Yeah.
People holding up signs and say, "Hi, Mom." And, the people who are obviously the second bit players who aren't going to be there next season, giving their final, "Hi, Mom, I'm here. I promise." Yeah. That'd be nice.
I work for video game companies. See,
yeah.
There's still some, not just, But yeah, I don't know. The fact that a prediction came true was probably the thing that I was most happy about. But I just played the first game last year, so I have more fondness of that now. It's not like I played it 15 years ago. But you're right, that game is not going to resonate to a lot of people. They're only going to know that there was a previous game. A lot of people probably may have missed that one. So yeah. Ryan, are you getting? Are you enthusiastic? Do you think this is gonna? What do you think about Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Hard to get psyched up for this one. I wasn't a big fan of the first game after playing it for the club. I know there's a lot of people. This has a fan base for it. It has a cult based fan, so I'm happy for those people. But I do have like the issue with it being called Beyond Good and Evil 2 when it's a prequel, unless they're planning on involving some of a story later on. I imagine that name might get changed, maybe some point down the road.
It'd be Beyond Good and Evil's subtitle something.
And you brought it up. You brought it up too that like in 2012 they had that trailer with Paige and Jade. were they in like that's how I knew that it was Beyond Good and Evil when I saw the pic, because they looked awfully similar to Paige. So I was like, okay, well, maybe this is him. And then they went and said prequel, and I was like, oh, it was kind of like I didn't see any gameplay. In gameplay, it was all cinematic. It was
entirely a cinematic trailer.
So I mean, like, that's enough for me if I'm a diehard fan of the series, just to know that's coming out. So that's great for some people. But for me, it was just like, oh, that's cool. It's just I was kind of turned off when I heard prequel. I would have liked maybe, like, you know, it seems like it was in development hell. So
yeah, definitely cool. Did you guys have any other thoughts on that you wanted to echo? No. Otherwise, I think we've hit everything for Ubisoft. So, well, let's just I'm sorry. Let's quickly hit the Ubisoft thing. One thing that you really enjoyed about this about their presentation.
Definitive date for South Park. I'm easily pleased.
Yeah, Ryan.
South Park looked good.
MP1.
I'm gonna go with the thing I didn't like. No Man's Skylanders.
No Man's Skylanders.
Not my Ubisoft.
Not mine. I think I'm gonna go with Beyond Good and Evil 2, even though it could never materialize, you know, or it could materialize and it could end up being a sequel. Like, it's a prequel now. Who knows?
So your favorite thing about the conference was that your prediction was right?
Well, what an egomaniac!
I clearly wanted it to happen. So, but good segue. Let's talk about predictions for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Nintendo. What are they calling it? The showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is taking place at it is 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 11 o'clock Central and 12 noon Eastern, and P1 for you is 1 p.m. They're saying it's going to be about a 30-minute presentation, but let's do predictions on that. What predictions do you have for Nintendo tomorrow? I don't care how obvious they are. If you want to go obvious, that's perfectly fine with me. P1, you first.
We finally find out what Retro is working on, and everybody is happy about it.
Okay. Caleb.
I would love to. A valid prediction would be, well, I don't know. I would love to see some sort of Metroid something. That's all. Just something Metroid.
Okay. And Ryan.
I'm gonna say this. Let me keep it short, but I'll say it leads into this real quick for my prediction. I see friend of the Cartridge Club, Chris Kohler, put it on Twitter earlier. Said Nintendo has a real chance at, you know, winning E3, because he felt, and I kind of agree with him, that Microsoft and Sony both left an opening for someone to you know, technically take it, because I don't think they fully, you know, all brought it. They both brought something good, I think. So they have a shot, but my prediction is Nintendo lets everyone down.
Interesting.
It's fucking worse. You're only gonna get.
My prediction is everything's gonna suck.
No, you're only gonna get Mario Odyssey, you know, and you're gonna get maybe a little bit more of this Rabbids game, and maybe Splatoon. You're gonna get like 10 minutes of Splatoon in this 30-minute presentation.
I don't think you see Rabbids at all. I don't think you see Rabbids. I don't think you see Skyrim. You're going to get Odyssey. You might get a splash of ARMS because it comes out Friday. You will get Splatoon, a couple of 3DS games, Fire Emblem Warriors, and you get a delay announcement on Xenoblade.
Maybe a Zelda DLC preview, but that's about it.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I forgot about
that. I think, let me hit mine. I don't think everyone's going to be crushed and demoralized by Nintendo's presentation. I think
it sucks because Ryan's is probably the one that's going to be the closest to being right.
You're probably right.
I mean, he has a precedent. He did get today's right, so
I think there's going to be a big 3DS reveal of something. I had heard somebody else make this comment, so I really don't want to claim it as my own, but I'm going to claim it for the purpose of this. Somebody said, what a great swan song it would be to do a sequel to Link Beyond World or Link Between Worlds, but make it in the Link's Awakening world. So 3DS Link's Awakening refresh type game. Let's do that. Sound good? Sound good? Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. So again, yeah. Watch the presentation tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, 1 or noon Eastern, and you can figure out the rest from there.
11 o'clock Central.
11 o'clock Central. Won't miss it this time.
Are we watching that one?
If you want to, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Why not?
I need someone to hold my hair from the tears.
But yeah,
I can't wait to talk in the group tomorrow about this one.
The plan for tomorrow, and so here's what I'm thinking. Normally we have our Tuesday night Google Hangout, which I would like to start once we're done with whatever we're talking about. I'm expecting that we'll go on the air at 7 p.m. Central, and hopefully the fact that we're adding the PC conference in there, I don't know that we'll have a ton to talk about there. But there's a couple titles that I think are worth mentioning. If we go beyond the hour, so be it. And so I would anticipate we'll focus primarily on Nintendo for the duration of that time. We would like to do some kind of like recap, sort of best of show type thing, and superlatives or something. We will be putting that. We'll figure all that out. We got a day to look into that. So. But aside from that, to those of you watching, thank you for sticking this out. This was a longer stream than yesterday's was. There's still 6 of you sitting here, so thank you. I know it's late. Go check out the forums over at cartridgeclub.org. We are going to keep looking at those. I think we will. What I would like to actually look at the predictions that were made and see how many of those were right, and we can talk about those tomorrow, or I can crunch some metrics on those. I think keep the comments coming though. I want to keep that thread going for as long as this week goes. We should continue to put the news out there as we get things. There's probably still plenty that we aren't covering that's outside the press conferences, and I assume the Treehouse will have gameplay demos and hopefully no exclusive reveals, please.
I'll be watching all the Treehouse events.
No Overwatch? I'm kidding. The double XP weekend's over now, and so there's no need for any more skins.
My lower third is red.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's not just to match the color of my eyes at 2:30 in the morning.
Fair enough. Well, if you want company, I'll watch some Treehouse with you. But yeah, so please hit up the forums, and then please. The stream will be earlier tomorrow, so if you can share the word with those who have missed out on these last 2 days, please do. I think our club tends to gravitate toward Nintendo, so this is although it's not an immediate reaction right after the fact, I think it'll be good to have that discussion. So fingers crossed that people will come out for that. But share that with people. Let people know to set aside some time. And we can flow right into the hangout afterwards. We can talk about the whole thing, and I will be spent at that point. So, as always, I want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for watching all the conferences and having some stuff to talk about. Again, we didn't do plugs at the beginning, but if you can just talk about where we can find you, P1.
You're going to use my plug time to plug Round 2 Gaming at round_2_gaming. He has done written and trailer reviews of every major conference on the forums at www.cartridgeclub.org, and they are posted as the conference ends. It's incredible. The man is a machine. So thank you, Dean.
#thanks, Dean. Caleb, where can we find you for those who aren't following you already?
Much like P1, I'm going to be very generous here and give a shout out to someone who definitely deserves it. You can find me at Caleb J. Ross everywhere. Caleb J. Ross.
Love it. Ryan, do you wanna gift your time to somebody else?
Thanks, Dean. Follow me on Twitter. It's RocketSauce.
And of course, you can find me at Musty Hobbit.
You selfish bastard.
I just said where you could find me. Anyways, tomorrow we'll talk PC Gaming Showcase a little bit, and we'll talk Nintendo. It's a big one. Anyways, and thank you guys for coming by. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks for coming. Have yourself a good night.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Adios.